Okay, so today is the day that I come to TikTok to tell my story. I am not familiar with TikTok, so I don't really know how this works. I'm trying my best. I keep recording, and the video keeps disappearing. I don't think it's posting. I would hope not. But yes, I'm coming to TikTok. I am not one to share my personal business or other people's business online. And I don't really know how TikTok works. I don't have a lot of followers, nor do I think that this is going to be like a thing that blows up. But I just hope that the information reaches the right people. So the whole purpose of me doing this is just sharing my experience with somebody who is just crazy, a deranged individual, and he is still roaming free. Part of my reason for sharing this is because I don't believe that law enforcement takes it seriously as he is still roaming free. So I wanted to share some things because I do feel like he's a danger to society and a danger to women, particularly women in the Bay Area. So if you are a woman in the Bay Area who is on dating apps quite a bit, unless I know you can like filter who you want. If black man is one of them, that's one. I think he'd be saying on his profile he's 6 feet. That's a lie. Or if you are one who frequent bars, particularly bars in the downtown area, downtown Oakland area, then you may have already encountered this man in the wild. He has been, in my knowledge, he's been in the Bay Area since the summer of 2023. So like June, July 2023. And is still out here. I know for a fact he's still out here because he's just that crazy. So I'm just going to be sharing my story as I have had enough. I've asked this person to leave me alone in every way possible, and he has not upheld that. And I'm over it. It has been almost 2 years. And unfortunately, I keep receiving like pieces of this person, and it's just like ill. And I want to also put out there, I did not date this person. I was not romantically involved with this person in any way. I was not interested in this person. I would not, even on my worst day. But yeah, that was not somebody that I was into. It's literally just someone who I thought was on hard times and I decided to help, partially because I seen like a part of my brother, not because he acts like him, but I have a brother who's in a state by himself. He went to North Carolina A&T, and he didn't have any family or friends out there. So in my head, it was just like, oh, like this is kind of like a similar situation. So I would hope somebody would do for my brother if they were in, if he was in like a sticky situation, basically, or fell on tough times. I wouldn't even say a sticky situation, but more so like just fell on tough times. So that was kind of like my mentality around it. But I was not romantically involved with this person whatsoever. So that is basically where I'm coming from with this. Now, how did I meet the devil? In the devil, I am going to call him Trey. That's not his name, but I'm going to refer to him as Trey. So I'm just going to share how I encountered this crazy person. So basically, I quit my job because the company was going down. It was already bought, and I just knew that they weren't going to stick around, and my position was going to be gone. So I was like, let me get ahead of it. So I put in my 2 weeks, and with this job position, they let you go. Like they'll still pay you the 2 weeks, but they let you go because they want to make sure you don't take their like clients or anything like that. So yes, they let me go. So I had 2 weeks, and I was studying to get my real estate license. So I was like, let me see if I can push it out 2 more weeks. So I did that to see if I could like just finagle me getting further in my courses, or maybe even completing my license altogether. So I was trying to do that. So because I pushed my orientation day back 2 weeks, I ran into the devil, Trey himself. And in my orientation, it was me, him, and 3 other people. So all 4 of them were temps. I was the only person who was permanent. So I didn't come through a temp agency. I went through a regular interview process, and that is basically how we all ended up in the same room. Now, as we're going through orientation, we're discussing like where we're from, where we live, like different parts of that. If you're familiar with the Bay Area, typically people who are in the Bay Area aren't from the Bay Area. I'm born and raised in the Bay Area, but all of them weren't. So I think one person was, but the rest of them wasn't. So he was from Baton Rouge, or is from Baton Rouge, and he lived in the East Bay like me. So he was just like, oh, how do you get to work? So fun fact, at that job, I worked with my mother. So she also worked there. So I was familiar with the company, but that's not how I got the job. But I just so happened to apply there because they had something open for what I was doing at my previous job. So it's the same industry. So I applied and I got it. And I explained, yeah, I carpool with my mom. You know, we both live in the East Bay, so we carpool over. And he was like, oh, can I carpool with you guys? And usually it's an absolute no, because I like to go home when I'm going home. I like to come into work. You know, I don't like to depend on other people. But it is beneficial in the sense of it would give us 3 people in the car. And if we have 3 people in the car, we can use the carpool lane going across the Bay Bridge. And we also would get that discounted toll. So I'm like, maybe, you know, let me ask my mom. So that's kind of like where I left it. I didn't push it. I was just like, you know, I really don't think I want to ride with him. But he came back around my desk and was asking. I was just like, okay, I think at that point we exchanged information, so that we could like text and be like, okay, like try and figure it out, because we have to see if it makes sense. So we ended up trying it. I think I even reached out to him like, do you want to give it a go? And he was just like, okay, sure. So we did it. And then after that, he's like, do you guys want to carpool again? Like he was trying to see if we was going to keep it a thing. So we ended up keeping it a thing, and we were carpooling. Now, from our early carpool days, we learned little information about him. He said he was from Baton Rouge, Louisiana. He said he went to LSU, and he said that he majored in mathematics. So that's what he told me. He majored in math. And I was just like, okay, we sharing a little information. I really don't care to talk to people in the morning in the car, and I don't want to kiki with them. I go to work, I see y'all, like we in the car. I don't want to do all that. But I would be nice, because initially I thought he was a little slow. Like, I don't know if slow is the term, but it suits him. Okay. So I thought he was slow. So I'm trying to be nice, because I'm just like, maybe he can't help it. If you could help it, I got a lot to say. But I was like, maybe he can't help it. So I'm trying to give him the benefit of the doubt. He is younger than me. So I'm like, I was sensing some like immaturity. I'm like, okay, he's probably just immature. Maybe that's why I'm so annoyed, because of the age difference. Like, so I'm just trying to more so check myself than to just be like, oh, he's annoying. So that's just kind of like how I felt about it. He also, so what else did he tell us? He told us that information. Oh, we asked him like, why did you come out here? Like, you know, I think he was saying he was trying to work in tech, and he has an apartment. So I was like, how did you, you know, do that? Oh, I had some savings. And I'm just like, okay. So he has some savings. He moved out here with the savings, and he was like on the savings for like 3 months before he got a job. Like, that's basically what his story was. And I'm just like, okay. And I think he said what his rent was. No, we gonna get there. He didn't say what his rent was then. But he was like, he lived alone, and he said he had 2 friends out here. So he didn't have no family, but he had 2 friends out here. And I can't remember what he said the other friend was. He gave like some little background on him. Don't remember. But then he had one friend who was like a nurse. And I remember when we inquired a little bit further on that, he was like, oh, he a little older. Cause I was like, why don't you kick it with those friends? He's like, oh, he a little older. You know, he a nurse, so he be busy. He got different hours and stuff like that. And then he said that they also had like a significant age difference. So I was curious as to how they became friends. He said he went to his friend's house, so I'm sitting on the couch, and they started talking. They became cool. That's basically the story that he gave. So I'm like, okay, whatever. So we exchanged like brief information, and in our early days of like meeting him, I started to notice certain things that would just piss me off. One, he was always late. He would always come down, he would be late, and I would give him like text messages like, hey, on our way, hey, on the freeway, getting off the freeway, 2 blocks away, 2 minutes away, downstairs, and somehow he still didn't make it down there in time. So I was not feeling that, because at that point I feel like you don't respect my time. But I'm just like, you know what? We doing it for the lower toll. We doing it for the lower toll, so we could get up a little bit later. Like, that's myself telling me that there's a benefit to this. So I wouldn't give him too much flack, whatever. But there was times where he wouldn't answer his phone. His phone would be on do not disturb. He wouldn't answer it. He wouldn't respond to the text. So at that point, you're getting left. Like, we came all the way over there. Now we're late because we can't use the carpool lane. So he was just very inconsiderate. And that was something that I did not like. And that was something that I noticed in the beginning. But I'm going to stop here because they keep deleting the video. So I'm going to just see if this works and then post another one. Okay, so just continuing on. That was something that was just irritating about him, was like he was not respectful of people's time. Another thing that he did a lot was vape. Oh my goodness, he would vape all the time. And fun fact about me, I don't smoke, I don't drink, I don't party, I don't do a lot of things. Like, I'm very boring. I'm very much to myself. And I take pride in that. I feel like I bring balance to the world. I'm very much boring. So I didn't like that he did that. And it was beyond annoying, because you just chilling in the car. Next thing you know, you smelling grape. And it's just like, it's like gross grape too. It's like grape medicine, like grape flavor. Like, it's just, and I would like roll down my window, because it seemed like it was only bothering me. So I just didn't want to be like a douche. Like, I didn't want to be a rude person. I'm trying to be nice. I'm trying to work on myself, because I don't want to say I didn't give him a fair chance, but I did not care for this individual. So, and my mom acted like she didn't notice it. And I feel like if she would have noticed it, she would have said something like, don't do that or whatever. And I felt like she the driver. It seemed like it's her car, you know what I'm saying? So I'm gonna let her handle it. But she never said anything, and it was so annoying. But one thing about the vaping, it was very much giving crackhead. Like he was fiending. I was just like, oh my goodness, if it does that, I really don't want it in my body. Like I take care of myself and I like to be healthy. If it makes you have crackhead energy, I don't want nothing to do with it. I'm not completely familiar with like what the vape does for people, but if it does that, I don't want no part. So when he was doing that, I rolled down my window, like, I'm trying to be level headed, like, just it's all right, it's not that deep. But it wasn't working. So that was one thing that he did a lot, and I'm gonna touch back on that vape. But let's get to where he started to low-key try me. So when riding in the car, he would talk about dating a lot, like talk about girls and dating and all these people that he's dating on the apps and just different stuff like that. And we'd be like, listening, giving our little 2 cents. So as we're discussing, he asked some sort of question. I can't remember what it was, but I'm just like, I gave my 2 cents. Now, for the folks who know me personally, I've never dated anybody. I am 30 years old. I haven't dated anybody. And it's not because something's like wrong with me. It's just, it's a lot going out there. Outside is scary. Okay. People scare me. Like, I just don't really want to engage with a lot of people. I would like to be married and have kids and all of that, but I just don't relate or move like the people who are outside. So it may not happen for me, basically. But I guess based off of my response, it just gave, I don't know, I'm not like a casual person or anything like that, like casually dating and stuff. Like I would give more of a like traditional answer, I guess. So I gave an answer and he was like, this might be kind of a weird question to ask. And I think I said something like it takes 2 to tango or something like that. And he was like, have you ever done the dance? Like in a sense, basically asking if I'm a virgin. And my mom, she loved telling my business. She ain't tell my business, but she kind of like hinted like, what gave it away? And I'm just like, okay. So at that point, he kind of picked up on the fact that I am indeed a virgin. And he seems somewhat fascinated by that. So he kind of, I don't want to say he obsessed over it, but he was fixated on it. So that same day, like when we parked the car, we kind of got there early, or maybe it wasn't there early, but I went to go get some breakfast from a place nearby. And I think I was like, I think he wants to walk with you. I think she thought this was going to be like, finally, she's going to date somebody. And I was like, girl, you couldn't be more wrong. And she was like, I think he wants to walk with you. I'm like, that's fine. I can show you where the place is. Like, we're not going to be walking together, but if you want to know where it's at, I'll walk you. I got a rabbit. She digging to get her food because she hungry. But yeah, so I'm just like, okay. So as we're walking, he just like kind of brought it back up. Like, that's fascinating. And I'm just like, I don't know what's fascinating by it. I feel like there's a lot of people who may have a similar story. It's just, we don't broadcast it. Like, who shouts from the mountaintops that that's what they got going on? Unless that's just like their journey or their story that they're trying to tell, then by all means. But yeah, he was just like, really intrigued. And I was just like, okay, like I'm not going into more detail than what you already know. And he was just like, yeah, because I lost mine at 12. And my first reaction was like willingly, like, was it consensual? And then I realized that's a terrible question to ask. I said, I apologize. He was like, no. Yeah, it was. And he was like, I think he said it was like with an older woman. And I don't know if he was trying to hint because I'm older than him. I was just like, oh, okay. And I just kind of left it at that. So we kept going and I showed him where the place was. I don't even know if he bought something, but I bought something. And yeah, so we went to work and we was minding our business. Now, after that, I feel like he started to hint at like, I feel like he was trying to temperature check, like to see if I was with it, and I was not. So he would say things in the car like, oh, like I put that on, huh? I look handsome, or a young, handsome man like me. And I'm just like, I mean, if you like it, so be it. Like, you don't do it for me. And then he also was saying, oh yeah, I think he asked me something like, would I date somebody younger? And I was just like, no, that's not my cup of tea. That's not what I go for. Now, who knows who I end up with? But I was just like, yeah, no, it's not really given what I'm looking for. And he was just like, oh, well, I've dated somebody older. And the girl, he said, she was like around my age, like slightly older than me, like 30 something. I was like, oh, good for y'all. I was like, what happened? It didn't work out. What was it? The age difference? He was like, no. He said, he gave some reason why it didn't work out. But I was just like, it's giving age difference. So he was saying that and he just kept dropping little stuff like that. And I'm just like, sir, it's not going to happen. Like, I never made any type of move that made it seem like I was into him. Like, even at one point, we had like an all company, let me sit up a little bit. We had like an all company meeting we had to go to. It was kind of like a workshop. And we all went, and there's this guy, he had like a book, and he was signing books, and he sent me a photo of him like in bed with the book on his lap and his legs crossed, like, ooh, just got finished reading it. It was a good read. It was a small book, but knowing him, he didn't read that book. Knowing him, he didn't read that book. So I'm just like, oh, he was like, oh, did you read it? I said, no, I gave mine away. I gave it to a different coworker. And he was just like, oh, I thought you would have threw it away. No, didn't throw it away, but I'm not reading it. Like, it was just very much a dry conversation. And then even when it came to like holidays, he'd be like, Merry Christmas to you and your family. Merry Christmas. And I put like the little tree. Like, it was nothing deep. Other than that, the text message was like, outside, 2 minutes away, getting off the freeway. Like, it was just very straight to the point. Okay, coming downstairs. Like, it was not much of a conversation. He tried, and I was very much dry. I was trying to be nice, but I don't think at that point he knew that he got on my nerves. So yeah, like, that's basically what it was. And then was there anything else that he said to me? Nothing else at that point. But then there came a time. So this is probably 2 months. No, not even 2 months. It was like a month, 3 weeks. It was 3 weeks in particular, because I remember I said something to him. I'm laying in bed and I get a phone call at 3 a.m. and it's him. Now, mind you, my phone is usually on do not disturb after like a certain hour, but because it was a weekend, it didn't automatically go on do not disturb. So he was able to call, he was able to get through. So I wake up and I'm just like, hello. And he was like, hey, do you think you can do me a favor? And I'm like, what? He was like, do you think you can come pick me up? He said he got into an argument with another coworker. They went out for drinks. He got into an argument with that coworker, and he ended up, in their argument, he ended up losing his keys, leaving his car key and his work key, not his car key and his house key at the bar or wherever they was. And I'm just like, why was y'all hanging out? One. And then he was like, yeah, so he's at Denny's. And I'm just like, so y'all was at Denny's? He was like, no, he called some girl to come pick him up, and she is not taking him back to her house, and she wanted to leave him at Denny's because Denny was 24 hours, and he said his leasing office opened up at like 6. So she was like, just kick it here for a couple hours and then go home. And at the time I was like, oh, that's kind of messed up. He was like, I know. And I said that, I was like, oh, that's kind of effed up. And she's like, yeah, I know. I said, well, where is she? He was like, sitting right next to me. And I said, I know good and damn well you don't got me on speaker. And he was like, no, I would never do that. I would never do that. That's one of his favorite lines. I would never do that. And I was like, let me see. So then I called my mom. I'm like, why did he just call me at 3 a.m.? He said he got into it with the coworker. And she like, what? She was like, I could ride with you. Because it's 3 a.m. I'm a woman. I ain't out here trying to fight the demons that's on the streets at night at that time. So we got into the car together and we drove over there. So that's what happened. We headed over there. I'm going to get into the next part. Okay, so we get to Denny's. And when I get to Denny's, he get in the car all goofy, laughing, get on my last nerve. But I went to go hit him partially because I was nosy, and two, because he don't have no family, no friends. He say he live alone. So I'm just like, being on the street at night, especially in the Bay, it's not a place that you want to be. You know, it's a lot of addicts, a lot of homelessness. Like, it's a lot going on. So I'm just like, he's young. Let me just give him, it's a little cricket. Let me just give him the benefit of the doubt. So that's basically why I went to go get him. Mainly, honestly, because I was nosy. I ain't that much of a saint. I was nosy. So we go there. He laughing, giggling, and doing all this goofy stuff, get in the car because he's drunk. He's drunk. It's 3 a.m. And as I said, I don't drink. And I also don't do drunks. Like, it is just not my thing. So I'm just like, you know what? Woosah, Camila. You got out your bed. You decided to go here. Woosah. So I'm just like, okay. So he was like, hey guys, how's it going? Laughing and kikiing. And I'm just like, okay. And he was like, yeah, so he gets into the story basically saying that he was out with our coworker. I want to give him a name. I'm going to just call him Scott. That ain't his name. But he was out with our coworker, Scott. And Scott was on the phone with our other coworker. Now, these were all temps. Like, they all came in at the same time, and they were all in that group at orientation. Was on the phone with our other coworker, who happens to be a girl. And the girl, he was on the phone, and Trey asked Scott, is that the girl? And he was like, no, that's not her. Like, I'm not talking to her. Now, why you're all up in his phone, I have no idea. Why he allowed you to be all up in his phone, I have no idea. And then the girl, she was being messy, but they kind of like high school, like, energy. So this is what he said, though. He said she texted him and was like, he's lying. He is talking to me on the phone. And I'm just like, that's just weird altogether. But then again, y'all kicking it at the bar after, on the weekend, whatever. So he was like, he confronted Scott about it and was like, hey, why did you lie to me? She just texted me and said, you are on the phone with her. Why would you lie to me? I hate liars. I hate liars. This is what he said. He hate liars. And it's just like, okay. And he was like, well, I actually did lie to you about some other things. So he said he came clean to him about other things that he lied to him about. And then he was like, after hearing all that, he was just like, I just don't know how I could forgive you. I really hate liars. He's like, I feel like I just got to slap you. He was like, okay. And he was like, yeah. So I was like, I had to slap him. So I slapped him. I said, hold on, wait. Me and my mom were both like, what? And he's like, he let you slap him? He's like, yeah, he let me slap him. He let me slap him, all on his little crackhead energy. And I was just like, I don't know. Now, if that grown man let you slap him, he's like, yeah, he let me slap him. And he's like all goofy laughing and stuff. And he's like, yeah, then I ended up losing my keys, my car key, and my apartment key. And we just like, okay. But we sitting there in the parking lot. And I'm like, okay, brother, it's time to roll out. So I'm about to pull out. Actually, I think I was about to pull out first, and then that's when he started talking. But I was about to pull out, and he was like, you got some food at the house? No, not for you. This ain't that. He's like, you got some food? I said, no. So he was like, oh, actually, I think I'm going to get something here. I was like, what? This goes back to him not respecting people's time, because you just sat in this parking lot for about 20 minutes before I came. It took me about 15 minutes to get here. I had to give me some gas. It took me some time to get here. You had about 20 to 25 minutes to order you some food, and now you want some? Sir, you called me out of my bed. So I was just like, oh no. But he drunk, I don't know how drunks work, but I don't know, maybe they need some food in their stomach. So I'm like, well, are you getting something from here or not? And he was like, yeah, actually, I think I'm going to get something. And I was just like, oh, Lord help me. So I was like, okay, we didn't actually pull out the driveway. So I was just like, okay, go ahead and order. And that's when he started to tell us the story. But as he telling us the story, I'm like, yeah, you can order online. You could click the button right there. Okay, what you want? Look through the menu. He's like, actually, I think I'm going to go inside. Yeah, you do that. So you go inside, and me and my mom looked at each other like, this is weird. Like, he's weird. They're all weird. Because why is y'all kicking it like that? I do not enjoy nobody's presence at my company to be kicking it with them at any job. I do not enjoy them like that. So, yeah, so he went inside. He got his food. He came back in all goofy, laughing and whatnot. And then we make it back to the house. Now, my mom, we live on the same block. So when I picked her up, it was nothing. I literally didn't even make it to the end of the block before picking her up. So I dropped her off, and then I brought him back to my place. Now, granted, the place that I was staying in is my grandmother's house, and family lives here. So it's multiple of us. It's like 5 people in the house at a time. And I have cameras, and yeah, so I have multiple family members who live here, cameras, all that. I do have a male cousin who stayed in the house and whatnot. So it was just a lot. It wasn't too crazy for me. And I have other reasons why I wasn't like scared to have him here. So he came in still drunk, goofy, and annoying. And I showed him the spare bedroom. I'm like, hey, you can lay here. If you want to rest your eyes, you can rest your eyes right here. You know what I'm saying? I'll wash sheets when you gone. But you can rest your eyes. I'm like, here's the bathroom, and here's like the kitchen. If you want to like throw stuff away, because he had his food. And in my head, I'm just like, well, I'm gonna rest my eyes. He got a couple hours, you know what I'm saying? One thing I love is my sleep, and I don't play about it. So I'm saying it to him, and I showed him where the room was. And as I'm like kind of straightening up, because it's a spare bedroom, so I had some stuff lying around. So I was just like moving some things, and as I was doing that, he was like, can I ask you a question? And I'm just like, sure. He was like, would it be weird if a guy friend and a girlfriend slept in the same bed together? And I'm just like, I mean, I think it depends on the circumstances, but it depends on your relationship and the circumstances. Basically, it's kind of like my answer that I gave, just to summarize it. And he was like, would it be weird? No, I gotta fix myself. My knees are hurting. He was like, sorry, gotta fix myself. He was like, would it be weird if I asked you to sleep in the same, if I asked you to sleep with me, like nothing sexual, but like if you just sleep with me? And I was just like, absolutely. And he was like, why? I was like, because there's an empty bed there. I prefer to sleep in my own bed, and there is no need for that. Like, what I look like sleeping with you? He's like, well, nothing sexual. I was like, sexual or not? No. And then he was like, well, I'm just not used to sleeping by myself. I said, well, don't you live alone? He was like, yeah, but sometimes I call people over to like sleep with me. I was like, well, I don't know what to tell you, but this ain't that, basically. And he was like, oh, okay. And at that point, I ain't going to sleep. I don't care how many cameras I got. I don't care how many bodies is in this house. I'm not going to sleep. So I went on to start doing some chores, because I'm like, okay, well, we got like 2.5 hours before I drop him off to his apartment. So I'm just like, okay. So I decided to go into the living room, because at this point, my grandfather had died literally the day before. And it wasn't like an unexpected death. That man, he used to terrorize us, call us all out our names, yelling, screaming, hollering. He was crazy. But he was sick already, so it wasn't unexpected. But I had some family photos in the living room. So I'm like, let me go look through the photos, because I feel like they're going to request it for his obituary, or if they want to do like a funeral or anything like that. So I was like, let me see if I can find any, because I felt the request coming. So I went in there and I started flipping through the photos, and he called himself coming in there, and he was like, can I sit next to you? And I'm just like, look, it's only awkward if you make it awkward. That's my motto. And I was just like, yeah, like he didn't sit next to me, but he sat on the cushion next to me on the couch. And then he just started talking. So one of the things he was saying, he was like, oh, I wish I had, some of this. Because you see all the family photos and different things like that. I'm just like, yeah, okay. We hang up photos. We got a lot of photos, plenty of photos. I have my great-grandmother's photos, my grandmother's. My mother was like practically a photographer back in the day. So we have so many photos. And then he just starts to go into his like weird line of questioning. So first he was like, yeah, you remind me of my sister. And I only mention this because one, I think he mentioned he had a sister, and it's his older sister. And I'm just like, oh, okay. Like, okay. So he offered that information, but then 2 seconds later, he was like, I really don't know anything about you. Like, if somebody was to ask me about you, I just wouldn't know what to say. Like, I don't really know anything about you. And in my head and out loud, I said, well, what do you need to know about me? You know me for 3 weeks. Like, there's nothing that you need to know about me. I said, I've offered up information, through our conversation, and maybe it's just not information that you find to be important or interesting, but there are things that you know about me. I like to travel, things about me, basically very general things. But I think maybe he was looking for a deep, dark secret. He was trying to get on like very intimate levels of knowledge about me, and that's a no-go. I don't have any deep, dark secrets. I'm a very bland person, and I'm not really ashamed about anything that I do, or how I've lived my life. So I don't have anything to offer, but also that is none of your business. So that's where he was trying to go with it. Okay, so like I was saying, he was like, yeah, there's not really anything that I know about you. And I'm just like, you don't need to know anything about me. It's been 3 weeks. You know what you need to know. And then he was like, well, why don't you ask me anything about me? Like, is there anything you want to know about me? I said, no. I said, by now, you should know if I have a question, I don't mind asking it. And if I wanted to know more information, I would. I wasn't interested in knowing more about him for what? Like, there was no need for me to inquire further. Like, this was not somebody that I was interested in getting to know. So I basically told him that. I was just like, no, if I wanted to know more, I would. Then he goes into asking me if it was weird that he slapped Scott. Like, do I think he was wrong for slapping Scott? I said, well, if he lets you slap him, then that's your business. Do I think it's weird? Yeah. Is that how I would have did it? No. But if that's what he let happen, then hey, it is what it is. I mean, I don't know what to tell you. That's not, how I move. He was like, yeah. He was like, yeah, because, I just really hate liars. I hate liars. And he was like, yeah, I just don't like liars. And, if you was my girlfriend and you lied to me, and in my head, I'm like, hold on, time out. Let me stop you there. We do not have to speak in hypotheticals, because that is not a thing. But he was like, yeah, if you were my girlfriend and you lied to me, like, I wouldn't slap you. I would just walk away. And I was just like, one, you couldn't slap me. Let's start there. You could not put your hands on me and think that I'm going to just sit up there and let you put your hands on me. You done lost your mind. Two, we do not have to speak in hypotheticals. It's not gonna happen. Say that for your actual girlfriend or whatever else you got going on. But I was just like, yeah, like you wouldn't be putting your hands on me no way, basically. And he was like, yeah, I wouldn't have done that. He was just like, I really just hate liars. Now, mind you, the girl that he said picked him up, he was mad at her because she Muslim and she lived with her family, and he wanted her to sneak him into their house that she shares with her family. And I was like, but I thought you hate liars. Isn't that lying? He was like, well, she could have snuck me in. And I'm like, she not about to ruin what she got going on in her household for you. Like, no, that's weird. And he like 25. And I'm assuming she in her 20s. What y'all look like sneaking people out? Come on now. But anywho, so that was basically something like, I hate liars. I hate liars. Now, when he was sitting on the couch, he was blowing somebody's phone up. Just blowing, calling. At first, I thought it was his mom. And apparently his mom lived in Louisiana. And I don't know what the time difference is. And I'm not about to look it up because I'm using my phone to record. But I don't know what the time difference is. But I feel like it was still disrespectful hours during that time that he was blowing up her phone. And I'm just like, he's clearly inconsiderate. No home training. But I'm like, hey, if she raised him, she know about it. So that's who I thought he was calling, like just blowing up the phone. So then eventually he was like, yeah, you know what? Actually, I think I am going to go take a nap. I said, okay, you do that. And then he was like, do you want to come with me? And when I say I could have jumped off that couch and socked him in his throat. No, I don't want to go with you. I established that the first time when I said, no, thank you. So he's like, oh, okay. Like a little sad puppy, and went to the room and fell asleep. So I continued to do chores because I had an appointment at like 8 or something like that. So I continued to do chores, walking around, washing clothes, folding clothes, putting things away, looking through the photos like I was doing my own thing, just cleaning up. He then went to sleep, and time come. The time came where your leasing office is open. It's time for you to leave. So I walk in the room and I see him there laying with his mouth open. I almost wanted to just go over there and slap him. Just because when I walk in, it's like, ew, I can't believe he had the audacity to ask me to lay with him. I feel like you can see people in that light when you like them or something. I am tolerating you for carpool. That's it. So then I went in there and I nudged him like, hey, time to wake up. And he's like, oh, 5 more minutes, 10 more minutes. I was like, you know what? I'm just fold my little clothes. That way he can be like, oh, they still not open, whatever. We gonna get him a little time to make sure they open up, everything open. So I put away my towels, and he had till then. It wasn't no damn 10 minutes, but I put everything away. Now it's time to go. So I went in there, woke him up. He's still dragging his feet like, brother, I'm gonna need you to wrap this up. I got places to be. So he finally get in the car, and then we head to his apartment. And when we get to his apartment, he ain't called no leasing office. He ain't going through the front door. He went in through the garage and just went upstairs. And I was just like, oh, interesting. Okay. Maybe he had his neighbor help him up or something, because he was speaking about a neighbor, and I'll mention her shortly. But yeah, so he went inside. And then I was just like, okay, whatever. I made sure he got inside, and I drove off. I went to my appointment. And then the next day, we went to work. As usual, he rode or whatever in the car. But then on the way back from work, we drove straight to the veterinarian because my dog, she had like, not a procedure, but I think they did like a deep ear cleaning because she has issues with her ears. So we took her to the vet, but we had to go pick her up. But we wanted to get there before they close, because they close at like 6, and it takes us time to get across the bridge. So we wanted to go straight there instead of dropping him off. Now, she's a German Shepherd, and she was sedated, so she wasn't like all the way there, but I didn't know how she would react to him, so I sat in the back seat and he sat in the front. Now, my mom went in to go get her, and we were sitting in the parking lot, and then he was just like, don't make this weird. Don't make this weird. I'm like, what? And because I'm like, you get on my nerves. But he was just like, just don't make this weird. He was like, but did you tell your mom about what I asked you last night? Now, mind you, in my head, I'm thinking he just young, immature, and was drunk. Like, I didn't think he thought much of what was going on. So I'm just like, okay, whatever. Like, I didn't think there would be an additional discussion after it. And I was just like, no, mind you, I did. I don't care. He don't like liars, but I don't give a damn. He lied to me. So, I was like, no, I didn't, it's whatever. And then he was like, did you tell HR? And I was like, no. And then he was like, looking at me. And I was like, you looking at me like you don't believe me. He was like, well, I guess I'll find out. I was like, I guess you will. So then my mom brought in the dog, and then we drove him home. And then that was just like the first time that he like kind of tried to test me. And that was about a month into knowing him. Not even a month. It was really 3 weeks and some change. So that's when I was like, okay, this is weird. But after that, he was no longer like temperature checking. He wasn't trying to see if I was like into him. Like, he wasn't saying any of those things. I think he picked up on the fact that I do not want him. And it will never be. So he stopped making like those comments and like doing those little advances or whatever. But he still continued to ride in the car, and he continued to talk about the different women that he was dating or was seeing or who was into him and just all these weird things. I feel like this people getting on my nerves. So yeah, he continued to do that. And then as for like his relationship with the coworkers, it was still weird because I guess he went back to talking to Scott. Him and Scott got cool again. And I always thought their relationship was weird. But even the girl, they would still talk. But when it came to him, the girl, and Scott, I ain't gonna give her name because she here briefly. When it came between him, the girl, and Scott, there was moments where I feel like they would pick on him and bully him, like videotape him and like just do like little teenage stuff. And I thought it was weird and immature, and I was just like, y'all just annoying. So I distanced myself. I don't really know what they whole get down was, but it was strange. Now, I do think at some point something happened between him and the girl because they was cool, and then the next minute she kind of was giving him the cold shoulder, like they would be cool and not cool. So he kind of made passes at everybody. So I wouldn't be shocked if something just went left with them. Like something at some point must have went left. Now, mind you, she stopped working. She was one of the first people to stop working there. She ended up leaving, so it wasn't that big of a deal. But it was something weird that happened between them. I'm almost certain because something weird happens between all of them. But him and Scott got cool again. So after that, yeah, we just continued to ride, and I started to notice more things and to pick up on more things. So I'm going to just leave this part here so I can pick up on the next one. All right, so one thing I did forget to mention about his encounter being at my house, he asked me a question when we were sitting on the couch, and I feel like he was foreshadowing. He was like, yeah, how do you know I'm not crazy? And I'm just like, well, you work at the job, and the kind of industry that we're in, background checks are very important. I'm like, I'm sure they did a background check on you, so you can't be that damn crazy. I'm like, you wouldn't be working there. So that was kind of like my logic. Little did I know. So I was just like, you can't be that crazy. And he was just like, oh, like, but I'm like, why would you ask that? But then again, I'm just thinking he's stupid. So I left it at that. Then another thing he mentioned to me, I'm just trying to show to y'all, like, the boy is slow. I had a sweater on. It wasn't super long, but it had like just like a little bit of skin showing. And I had my sweats on. So I had on a sweater that was kind of cropped, but it wasn't severely cropped. And then I had on my sweats, and you can see like a little slither of my stomach. And this man goes, did you have a C-section? Mind you, I don't have children. I don't have any children whatsoever. I have not been with child. And I'm just like, and he knows that I have no kids, and I don't have kids. I said, I don't have any kids. He was like, I know. It just, I guess he saw a piece of my stomach, and I have the line that goes up my stomach, only on like underneath my belly button. And I was just like, but that's not a C-section. Like, I was just like, no. Like, I just left it at that because I'm just like, I don't want to make somebody feel like they dumb, but that was not a wise question. So that was just like two things that I forgot to mention. But yeah, so basically moving forward, things that I noticed when carpooling, or just things that I feel like is relevant when we were carpooling that I'm going to mention. I had at one point taken notes. So I'll just go back to some of the things that he mentioned to us. So I already said he was from Baton Rouge. He already told us about the two friends. He said that he had his own place here. He also said that he had a car. So he would always say that he had a car. He showed us a photo of the car, and he was talking about he was going to get like a new car. He was always just giving us all this information that we did not ask for. Now, mind you, where we worked at, I was back office, and he was like front house, like he was client facing. So we had different hours when we come in and out of work, which was also annoying because his hours was different from ours. So we would actually be waiting for him to get off of work. We would stay a little bit later waiting for him so we can just not ditch him. We were just trying to be nice. But yeah, so he was client facing. But I say that to say there was some times where you have to work Saturdays. My mom's position and my position, we don't have to work Saturdays. So that just wasn't a thing. But he was saying like, oh, he'll drive in. Like, what route should he take? Like, he's having a whole conversation about this. And when his car, we've never seen his car. He never drove anywhere. But this is just what he was telling us. Something else he told. He said that he does YouTube. But he said that he does YouTube, and it came about because my mom, she loved telling my business. Everybody think that I'm just going to be this YouTuber. I am not. I'm too stuck in my ways to really be successful on anything with social media. But and also I don't really like a lot of people Like, not like people in general, just I don't like a lot of attention. But yeah, so he said he had a YouTube, and then my mom mentioned my YouTube. He's like, oh, what's your YouTube? And I was just like, whatever, I guess I'll share. I'm not as stingy with that information. Back in the day, what? You would have to pry that out of me. So I gave him my YouTube channel, and he was like, yeah, I got one too. And I was like, oh, what's yours? He's like, oh, I'll send it to you. Never sent it to me. But he said he had a YouTube. He'd be like gaming on there with his friends, and he'd be making money on there. Like, this is what he said. I'm just like, okay, the gaming has nothing to do with me. I wasn't that interested. But I was just curious, because I'm like, you say you got it, you got mine, but you don't want to give yours. Weird. He said he did music, like he'd be producing music, and one of his songs kind of blew up on Instagram and blah, blah, blah. I'm just like, okay, one thing about me, I'm not into the up and coming artists. I do not want to hear your music. I don't want to give you an opinion because, you know, it's not even that whether it's good or bad. I ain't no music critic, but I can tell you whether I like it or I don't, but I don't want to discourage nobody from their dreams. So I'm just like, don't share it. Also, what else did he say? Yeah, music, and on Instagram, the song took off. So he was saying he got like a lot of followers. He had like 20-something thousand followers. And I'm just like, okay, whatever. We would drop him off. Every time we dropped him off, he always came out the garage, like, or he always went into the garage. And there was times where we didn't drop him off at his house. We would drop him off at a bar nearby, a bar a lot, honestly. And that's when we was like, you got a drinking problem, brother. You hear it too often. Oh, I just get one beer. Lying. And we just like, okay, whatever, we drop him off. He would also go to the barbershop a lot. The barbershop, it was an interesting encounter there one time. We dropped him off, and he was upset that the barber wasn't there. Like, he tend to become like possessive over people. Usually just some of the males that he would speak about, because he would talk to us about females, but he wouldn't have like repeat females that he would talk about. Or women, I should say, because I know some people don't like the term females. But yeah, so he was talking about like women that a lot, but it wasn't like repeated women. It wasn't the same woman, but males, it was like repeats. And he would seem somewhat possessive over them. So one was his barber. Like, he was just like, I don't know why he's not here. I asked him if he's going to be here, like just getting so upset. And I made a slick comment, because I'm like, you got your nerve to be upset about somebody not being there when you stay playing with my time. And I was just saying something like, now you know how it feels. And then he just went like, what? Because my mom heard me, so she laughed. And he was like, what? I'm not gay. I was like, what? Like, where did that come from? He was like, I'm not gay. Yeah, what? And I was just like, nobody said that. Like, where did you hear that from? So that was a weird encounter, because I never called the boy gay. I don't care if you are. I don't care if you aren't. Like, that ain't got nothing to do with me. You ain't, I don't care. Do what you do. But I thought that was really strange. And then he would also ask us to take him to the smoke shop, because as I told y'all, he was a bit of a crackhead when it came to the vape. So that was one of the other habits that I saw. Let me see. And one thing I also noticed, because when he asked me that night to pick him up, I was like, why didn't you ask your friends? The two friends that you said you knew before you came out here. And that's when he's like, oh, well, the nurse, I think he said he had a girlfriend, or the other one had a girlfriend, and he'd just be working. So, he didn't really have time, and he lived in the city, and we was in Oakland. So that was like his excuse. And I'm just like, okay, I guess, whatever. And then, yeah, also he was kind of possessive of that coworker, Scott, because when Scott wouldn't invite him or tell him certain things, he would get so upset. And I remember one time, like, he don't have to tell you nothing. And some of the stuff that you want him to tell you is not for him to tell you. Like, that was somebody else's business. They invited him. They clearly didn't invite you. So you know when you're not wanted somewhere. You know what I'm saying? So I was just like, he don't have to tell you anything. Oh, something else he was doing a lot. Like, we would, like I said, we had different times. As in, like, when we had to leave and be out of work, because he was like client facing, he had to wait until that part of the business was closed. We were back office, so we could leave like an hour before him. He wouldn't let us know when he was staying in the city. Like, he had a bad habit of not letting us know when he would stay in the city. So he'd be like, oh, actually, I'm going to stay. But we just waited 45 minutes, 30 to 45 minutes for you to get off work. Like, he would piss me off. So that was something that was interesting. But I say that because after that, like, sometimes I would like send him a message on Teams like, hey, are you riding with us? Like, if we would have more of a communication because of that. And I say that because that becomes important. And he would always talk about dating. So I will probably get more in detail in the next clip. But he would talk about dating a lot. He would be in the car talking about dating, all these different girls he was going on dates with. And he would just offer up this information and try and ask for advice. I don't know if he was doing it just to let us know, like, oh, I could pull, like, I could get women. Either way it go, neither one of us cared, but he would offer that. So I'm going to divulge into some other things in the next clip. Okay, so now I'm gonna get into some of the weird stories. Like this was a long time period, so I just want to make that clear. We started carpooling like end of September, beginning of October, all the way until May. So this is just different things that occurred during that time. So I do want to just discuss some things. Now, there was a time because I was like, maybe he just needs friends. Like, I am a nice person. I'm not super naive, but I try to be nice and give people the benefit of the doubt and just try to give people some grace. So that's just kind of like what I was doing early on. Because I honestly thought he was love. So I was giving him some grace. So at some point I was like, well, maybe he just needs to find friends who kind of falls within his age range, or similar people who are doing decent, doing good. So at one point I invited him to go to the pumpkin patch with me, my friend, and she has a family, a beautiful little family, and she has a great husband. They just have a cute family, children and all that. Now he did not go. I invited him like kind of last minute. I'm just like, maybe this will be a decent idea, help him get some normal friends or something like that. Not necessarily my friends, but because my friend's husband is slightly younger than us, I'm like, maybe the people he work with, or he can introduce him to somebody, not him in particular. But he ended up like not responding to my text when I invited him. And I ended up going without him. So I thank God that he did not come, because like I said, my friend and her husband, they have a beautiful family. They're nice people. Like, I'm so glad that he was not introduced to this person in any way, as I know that he would have caused them so much grief. So I thank God that I was able to, to protect people that I care about, basically. That was one time that I did like invite him out somewhere. So other weird things that happened. We picked him up one time, and this is just things like you could question it, but who had the time? Like, I really didn't care. So we picked him up one time and we didn't even drive a block. He was like, oh, I need to go back and leave my keys. I was like, what, your house keys? He was like, yeah, I need to go put them on the table. I was like, why? I was like, you can't put them in your backpack. This whole time I'm thinking he carrying keys with him every day. So I'm like, you can't put it in your backpack? He was like, oh, I just don't want to lose them. And I was like, I mean, if you know yourself. So we turned around and we let him take it in the house. Because before I was like, are you leaving them for somebody? Like, is there somebody who's looking for them? He was like, no. So you want to go leave your house keys on the coffee table in an empty house? Like, I'm confused. So we took him back, and then he came back down. I was just like, okay. And I thought that was weird, but I didn't question it more because I did not give a damn. And then there was another time where we picked him up and he was late, and he comes down and he giving Tyrone Bigham energy. Like, he's giving crackhead. He was like, you think we could stop by the smoke shop? And we said no, because he was already late. So I was like, no. So we get in the car, we drive, and we going across the bridge. And he was like, he was telling us how he lost his vape. And I'm just like, good, you don't need that. So he's telling us how he lost his vape. And he was like, he was at a party and he was smoking on his vape, but he had to go to the bathroom. He was sharing his vape with somebody, complete stranger that he does not know. And he asked the dude to hold it while he went into the bathroom. He came back, the dude was gone. So he ain't had his vape since like last night. So he like when I say literally like just freaking out, I'm just like, this is scary, and you be doing that up in the car. That's a problem. I don't want none of that up in my system. So he was like, oh, do you think you can Google smoke shops in the city? And I'm just, well, he didn't say the city. I feel like that's more if you're from the Bay, like you say the city to town, like you use different lingo. But yeah, he was like in the city, and I was just like, why you can't do it? Like, where your phone? He was like, it's dead. I'm just like, ain't nothing about you put together. So I Googled some, but I texted it to him. What was I supposed to do? Let him hold my phone? I wish I would. So I sent it to him. And then we get to the job, and later on that day, he was like, yeah, I had somebody, I did an Uber, and I just texted the Uber like, hey, do you think you could just stop by the smoke shop? I'm not there, but if you could just do it, I'll give you some good money. And he was like, okay. So that's how he got his vape. So that was another weird story, crackhead energy. And then there was another time where he said that his cousin was out here living with him, and he just received an email from the leasing office saying that he needs to add his cousin onto the lease, or he needs to have him leave because he has been there for more than 5 days. And I was just like, okay, what's the problem? Are you going to add him to the lease or not? And he was like, well, I don't want to add him to the lease because they're probably going to do a background check, and he got a criminal history. And I'm like, well, what did he go to jail for? And I'm just like, trying to explain to him, like, it is the property's responsibility to do their due diligence to make sure that they are aware of who is living in that building. If your cousin has a serious charge, such as things that have to do with women or children or violence, like this is something that they need to know, because if something goes down in that building, they may be held liable. He was like, no, I mean, he got something going on, but it's nothing like that. And he was just like, yeah, because, you know, he like a criminal. And he was trying to make it seem like painting his cousin in a bad light so we could just look so down on him. I'm like, he ain't the first criminal, I'd admit. Like, it's not that deep, but I'm just like, they're just doing their due diligence. So you either need to have him sign the lease or, you know, have him leave. And he was like, well, what happened if I just let him stay there and don't sign the lease? I said, then y'all both gonna be homeless. You know what I'm saying? You can do that if you want to, but you risk your ability to stay there at that point. And he was like, well, what if the background check or his credit score come back bad? I said, well, you were able to get the apartment on your own, right? They're just adding him on there as it's the process. And this is just me speaking. Like, I've never rented apartments. I live with family homes, or, you know, kind of rented from family. So he was just like, oh, yeah, I'm going to figure it out. But yeah, he was trying to make it seem like his cousin was in a bad light. Like, oh, it was his older cousin. He just trying to help him out. You know, he fell on rough times. He, the only one, you know, trying to really help him out and get his life together. So he flew him out from Baton Rouge, and he been staying with him for a little while. And I'm just like, oh, okay. So then we left it at that. He was like, okay, I'll figure it out. Like, that was a Friday. So come Monday, my mom asked, like, what happened? She was like, oh, let me tell you about it. Let me tell you what happened. So at this point, I be tuning them out. So I'm turning down my headphones, like, what's going on? I want to know what happened. Nosy. That's my problem. I was nosy. And so he was like, yeah, let me tell you about it. Like, he got hype. So I'm listening, like, what happened? He was like, yeah, so I was at home. I'm making a pork chop. I'm cooking my pork chop. And my cousin said behind me. He was like, yeah. So I went down to the leasing office to express my concerns. And he was like, Ninja, what concerns you got? Like, this is what he's saying. So at this point, you know, story kind of getting good. So I'm listening. They don't know I'm listening, but yeah. So he was like, yeah, I asked him, well, you know, what concerns you got? So he said he walked down to the leasing office, told the leasing office what his concerns was, and that he wasn't signing the lease. And he's like, what? Like, he was like, you know, because he was trying to figure it out, he was trying to solve it. And we was just like, okay, you know, like, what happened next? So he was like, yeah, he told him his concerns. I said, so what was the concerns? He said, I don't know. I was just so flustered. Like, I wasn't even really listening. I'm just looking at him because I'm like, you know, I thought he was kidding, but he don't look like, he not the type to joke. So I'm like, I don't really know what to take from it. And so I'm just like, oh, okay. So, you know, what happened next? And which is basically what we're trying to figure out. Like, he telling us what happened next. He was like, yeah, so at this point, I'm just like frustrated. I say, you know, we need some time apart. And so I ended up getting him a hotel, and I made sure they saw him leave on the camera. Like, make sure you leave. Because one of his things, like, how did they see you? How did they see you? You know, I told you, you just stay in the room. Don't leave. You know, what was you doing? I said, well, they probably see him coming in and out of the place. Like, what are you talking about? He ain't got to be walking around and doing nothing crazy. It's just, you're not a tenant here. So that's basically what I was telling him. So he was like, yeah, he had to get some space. He put him in a hotel room. We just need some time apart. So that's kind of where that story had ended. And we were just like, okay, it was kind of a funny story. What have you? Whatever. Next, he said he took time off where he didn't come to work. So he went to go visit his family in Baton Rouge because his grandma had died. So he went down there for her funeral. That's what he told us. So those were some of, like, just the weird stories that he told us that become relevant later on. And I just thought the man was weird. And he was still doing that damn vaping thing. So at this point, I think he's starting to catch on. I don't really like him. I don't care for his present because he was vaping and I would roll down the window because I don't want that stuff up in my lungs. And my mom clearly never smelled it, but I always did. And I just didn't want to be that person to be mean. So I'm just trying to be nice, trying to work on myself. And I'm not a mean person, but when I don't like you, I don't like you. So at one point he was like, oh, why do you keep rolling your window down? Is that because of me? And I was like, yeah. And then he was like, oh, I never noticed. I was like, well, you caught on eventually. And I was just like, I don't like the vape. Like, I don't care to have it in my system. So he continued to vape. He would just roll down the window now when he would vape. I'm like, and my mom asked him to stop eventually, but he was just so inconsiderate. Overall, inconsiderate. But those are just some of the weird stories that came about while we were writing together. Okay, so now I'm going to get into some of, like, the dating apps and whatnot. So he would meet a lot of girls on apps and would date them. At least that's what he told us. But I kind of believe it because I do think that somehow, some way, there are some people who find him to be charming, somewhat attractive. I never found to be attractive or charming. But based off of, like, what people would say, like, when they found out some of the weird stuff, they would be like, oh, wow, he's kind of attractive. Like, I can see, I don't know what y'all see. But yeah, that is one of the things that he kind of like wrote on. Now, mind you, he would date a lot of these, like it was always a new girl, and I'm just like, okay, like you may want to slow your roll. You got a lot going on. So he was on dating apps and doing different things like that. Now, mind you, one of the times while we were driving him, he ended up losing his phone. So he said his phone broke or he lost it or something like that. So he had to get a new one. I'm gonna come back to the phone, but that was something that he said. So I'm like, okay, whatever. So he would date around. One of the dating stories that he told us that was very weird and became extremely relevant later on in my investigation was that he was on a date with a girl. Now, mind you, I don't think he likes black women. I think he actually fears us. Thank God. But he don't like black women like that. And the ones that he do encounter give him little to no time. So he was on a date with a girl, and I think she was black. And I think how we even got into this because we was asking, because like he was talking about like all the different girls that he would date. But she was black, and I guess they went on a little date, and he was taking her back to her apartment. When they got to her apartment, he said that she wanted him to stay over, but he couldn't stay over because he had work the next day. So she got upset, and when she got upset, she like shut the door and called him a name. I believe it was loser, and the reason why I feel like it was loser because apparently that name triggers something for him. So she said that, and then I guess he got upset and got out the car like, why would you call me that? So he kind of tried to confront her about it, and she was just like, they just kind of going back and forth. And at this point, he was like, where's your phone? And she was like, oh no, like I must have left it in the lift. So he didn't expect her to be able to catch the car, but she like chased the car, went down to the car. The guy was like, your phone is not in here. So then he proceeds to take her phone out of his pocket. And at that point, now she calling him a thief. We went from loser to thief. So she calling him a thief, and he was like, well, why did you call me that? Because she was like, you stole my phone. Like, you literally just took my phone. She's like, you're crazy. Like, you're a thief. He's like, but I don't understand why you call me that or whatever. So they going back and forth. And he said eventually, he told her he'll go back to his place, change, and then come back. So I guess she left the door unlocked. And this doesn't make sense because I believe she lived in an apartment complex. So how did you get in the building? Especially in the Bay Area, people love being Karens. They ain't about to let you in any and every building. But he said that she asked him to come back, I guess after he changed, so he agreed. So he went to change, and then he came back. He said he went to her apartment, walked in, saw that she was asleep, and left out. And then she got upset and was texting him saying, like, why would you leave my door unlocked all night? Like, basically just cussing him out. And I'm like, y'all both weird because, girl, what? You found him to be a loser. He just stole your phone. He went back up. But then again, he be lying, so I don't know if that was true. But that was the story that he told. So the stealing of the phone was weird. So that was one of the stories that he told. He also mentioned like a week before the story takes a bit of a turn, that he met the love of his life. He was walking in downtown Oakland and met the love of his life. She was walking her dog, and he was just talking about how this was the one. So we was just like, okay, he giving us information, but he said something about her being Hispanic, which is why I think we kind of touched base on the black girl, but what was that? He said something about her being Hispanic, and like I guess he's had bad experience with Hispanic women and them being crazy or cussing them out or something like that. I don't know. But that was something that he was talking about. And he said she was a butcher. She was on a cooking show and all this other type of stuff, just giving us all this information. And he sent me a link when I was at work, like of an article about her being a butcher or being on a cooking show. So I guess he was scared because his experience with them, I guess they've been a little extra in the fact that she good with knives. I guess he was a little nervous. We're gonna get to that too. So I'm like, okay, whatever. I mean, you don't know this girlfriend can of paint. I mean, if you're gonna date her, then date her. Don't judge her based off of her race. Like, that's not really fair. You wouldn't want nobody to do that to you. So he did end up going on a date with her, and he was like kind of getting at like what she wore on a date, saying, oh, she wore this like pink top and this green shoes. Like, he was just saying like she was wearing all these crazy colors. And he was like, and then she said she wasn't hungry, but then when we went to go get some, she was tearing that cheese plate up and all this. I'm like, okay. He showed me like a sneak video of him trying to show like she was tearing the cheese plate up. It didn't look like she was tearing that up, and her clothes was not weird. She had on like a maroon skirt and like a gray shirt or something like that. Like he was making it way bigger than what it had to be. So I was just like, okay, like what? So then after the date, he like, well, she didn't text me back. And I'm like, well, when did you guys go on a date? It was like yesterday. I mean, it was the day before, but like at night. Like they party ways at like 9 o'clock or something like that. And this is like 7 in the morning talking about she hasn't responded to me. And I'm like, well, give her some time. Like, she not about to just be responding to you like that. And I'm like, maybe today wasn't good. Give her some time. At least give her, longer. Let her get into her day before she responds. And then I guess he ended up texting her like, he said, if you don't go on another date with me, I'm going to jump in the lake. I said, did she block you? Because she should have blocked you. Did she block you? He was like, no, read it. Like, no, I said it because we were at the Lake Merritt. There was some guy who came up to us and I was like, God, like, leave us alone or something. So he gave some weird story. I said, I would have blocked you. So he was like in his head after he said that, I would have blocked you. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. So that's basically like what was going on. So he said that, and then that was like when they had their date. And I think it was like that weekend. So then come Tuesday. So let's say we was talking on Monday. Come Tuesday, we come to pick him up. And this is where stuff started to take a bit of a turn. So come Tuesday, we go and pick him up. And we go to pick him up. And then he decides that, or he comes down and he looks sick. He looked toe to hell up. And I'm just like, I don't even know if I want you in the car. Like, what you got going on? So he looks sick as hell. He get in the car and we like, you good? He's like, he not feeling well. So we like, okay, whatever. Or this might have been like a Wednesday. No, it was a Tuesday, I think. He get in the car sick as hell. And I'm just like, okay, this is different. We get to the job. We go our separate ways, have a good day. And then we go through our work day. I'm like, what's going on outside? We go through our work day. At the end of the work shift, I'm texting him. Well, I was going to send him a Teams message like, hey, is you riding back with us? I saw that his was like yellow, like, so he must not be here, or he must already clocked out or something. So then I go to text him like, hey, is you riding with us? Is you riding with us? Like, I'm asking, no response. Mind you, I never went downstairs to see if he was there, but actually I did, but I didn't see him there. So I'm just like, oh, maybe he's like on a break or something. So I'm texting him like, are you riding with us? He didn't say nothing. I was like, all right, bet, we about to leave. So we left. And then the next morning I'm like, hey, are you riding with us? Are you going to be rolling with us? No response. So I'm just like, okay, I don't think he's riding with us. So this was probably a Wednesday, Tuesday. I don't know what day this was. I can't even remember, but basically it was the next day. So we went into work. I had to leave early that day because I had an appointment. So I'm just like, my mom was going to catch Bart and I was going to pick her up. So I ended up driving, going to my appointment. And while I was at my appointment, my mom was like, oh, he went home sick. They said he went home sick yesterday. So in my head, I'm like, oh, he went home sick. I'm like, well, we ain't heard from him. And he said he lived alone. He has no family. So I'm like, he looked really bad that day. So I'm like, maybe he passed out in his apartment. Like, he don't have nobody to check on him from what he's told us. So I'm like, ooh, what should we do? Like, should we do a welfare check? So this is what I asked my mom. I was like, should we do a welfare check? And she was like, yeah, do a welfare check. Now, mind you, I don't think she know what a welfare check is. I'm like, it doesn't tell me calling the police. So I called the cops and I was like, hey, just trying to do a welfare check on my coworker. I saw him yesterday morning, heard he went home sick in the afternoon, and I haven't heard from him since. To my knowledge, he doesn't have any friends or family, and he lives alone, and he was really sick that day. I was wondering if anybody can go and basically check on him. I said, I don't know what apartment he lives in. I just know where his apartment building is. And they was like, okay, go ahead and send us the address and we'll send an officer out there. I was like, okay. Okay, so I basically did a welfare check. I called the police, and they said they would send somebody over. But after I hung up with the police, I'm like, I could just call the leasing office. I was like, I don't know why I didn't think of that. I wonder what time they close. So I was like, let me see if I can find the number. So I found the number. I gave them a call, and basically I gave them a call, and I was like, hey, I'm calling because my coworker lives in your building. I haven't heard from him in a while. He went home sick and he was pretty sick. And I was just wondering if you guys can just go upstairs and knock on his apartment to see if he's okay. The guy was like, yeah, what's his name? So I gave him his name and he was like, He's like, oh, yeah, I know who you talking about. He don't live here. I said, huh? He's like, yeah, he don't live here. He not a tenant here. I said, sir, I pick him up every day out of the week to go to work except for like the weekends. So in the week, I'm there picking him up. He's like, yeah, I know who you're talking about, because we kept receiving a lot of mail for him here. And we didn't know who it belonged to. So we finally went up to the apartment. He was like, there was a girl there. And we told her, yeah, he needs to be added to a lease, but he ain't been added to a lease yet, so he don't live here. I was like, you know what? Maybe he's living a double life. I said, I've done my part. I checked in on him. I would hope, if somebody I cared about was in the same situation, people would at least see if they got a pulse. So I was like, I did my part, and I hung up. So then when I went to work the next day, I was telling my coworkers, because they're all asking us because he rode in with us. So I don't know if it's because we all black. Maybe they thought we was all family, but we not. But people would like stay asking us. And I'm just like, yeah, I don't know. I said, I called around, see if somebody could check on him. I ain't heard nothing. And then word got around that he was let go. And I was like, dang, that's messed up. They let him go. He could just be sick in a hospital somewhere. Like, what's going on? So my coworker was like, ooh, we could check to see if he's like in the hospital or in jail. Like, I know how to check to see if somebody has been arrested, because I was checking for my family member. I thought that they had got arrested. I was like, okay. So we happened to know his birthday because we had a Cinco de Mayo party, and he was like, oh yeah, my birthday's coming up. So his birthday's in May. So we knew exactly what day, and I knew what year because I knew what our age difference was. I think we're like 5 years apart. So we were able to have his birthday and his name. So I type it in. She told me what the website was. I type it in. Nothing came up because, the little I am not an alien thing was at the bottom, and I did it wrong. So we're doing it at the same time. And she just goes, and I'm like, what happened? So we found out the boy was in jail. And I'm just like, oh my goodness, what was he arrested for? So we find out that he's in jail and that the charges was crazy. I don't know how to work TikTok, but if I could put like a comment, I don't know if they pin comments or nothing or something like that, but I will put it in maybe the comments or the description. I really don't know how I'm gonna do it. But I'm like pre-recording these because I feel like it just will be hard for me to do this, and God forbid some people get interested. I don't want the pressure of trying to keep up. So yeah, I found out he was in jail and the felonies was like real. But if you're like triggered by like DV or anything like that, then you may not want to listen to this portion or continue on for the rest of the story because it gets quite serious. So we looking at it, and one of the charges was like battery or violence against a domestic partner or spouse or something like that, or living partner. I'm just like, what? Because I was like, I thought he lived alone. And then there was another one where it says something about like him having a weapon and using it. So I'm like, interesting. And then there was more for like violence, like physical violence. Like I can't remember each one, but I'm gonna try and list it because I did take a screenshot of the inmate locator screen. So I was just like, oh, okay, so this is interesting. But we had to go into like a meeting when we found out the information. So we both like, oh my goodness, like basically at this point, my other coworkers kind of picked up on it. So he was already gone from the company at that point. And I had realized, I was like, oh, okay. I was like, dang, well, how did they know? I'm like, well, he probably could have kept his job. Like, how did they just like cut loose, no call, no show? So I was just curious. And then nothing happened from that. Now, what I did forget to say was when I did the welfare check and there was no response or anything like that, I did send him like a slight text, like, I don't know what you got going on. Hope you good. Basically very simple. Like, because I wouldn't want my family member to be out somewhere and, in a ditch somewhere and nobody bothered to check up on him. But I did my due diligence. I ain't hunting this person down. I ain't looking for him like that. But because my coworker was also as nosy as I was in some instances, we were able to figure out that he was in jail. So I'm like, oh, he in jail. And then somebody else shared information with me that, yeah, he's been arrested before. I think he was arrested out here for public intoxication, and he had DUIs back where he was from. So back in Baton Rouge. And I was just like, oh, or back in Louisiana, I should say. I don't know if it was Baton Rouge specifically. But I was like, oh, okay. So I'm like, I don't do background checks around here. But he came through a temp agency. So I don't think a DUI would have been enough for us to stop him anyway. But also, I think the temp agency was the one who ran the background check. And maybe the background checks that they run is different from what we do. So I don't know if what he currently had on his record was enough to keep him from having the job. So I'm like, ooh, what? Like, I'm like, okay, this is crazy. So then I went back home, and I think it was either that day or the next day. I'm asleep, like I'm going to sleep, and I get a call. And mind you, it's during the week. So if it's during the week, my phone is typically on Do Not Disturb unless it was a Friday. I get a call, and it said Trey. Now, mind you, it said Trey too, because he had two phones because the first phone broke, like I said. It said Trey. And I was just like, oh, he must have got a booty phone. But I was like, no, this is his phone. So I'm like, okay, he must be free. So then I pick up the phone. I'm like, hello. And he's like, hey, friend. You know what? I shouldn't have sent that damn text. I'm just too nice. So I sent that text. And that's probably why he called me. So he's like, hey, friend. And I was like, hello. He was like, do you think you can do me a favor and come pick me up? And I said, and take you where? He was like, that's the thing. I'm going to keep doing this. It's a force of habit. But he was like, that's the thing. I can't go back to my apartment for a couple days. And I was just like, okay, give me a moment. So I hung up the phone. I called my mom. I said, oh, guess who just called me? Trey just called me. And she was like, what? What'd he say? I said, he asked me to pick him up. And he can't go back to his apartment. I was like, he can't stay here. He can't stay here. So the first time he didn't even have my address. Like, he didn't remember where I took him. Like, so I'm just like, I really don't want him knowing my information. But when I went back on the inmate locator page, it was gone. Like, his information was gone. So I'm like, oh, he must really be free. So I ended up, and you know, it's crazy. I knew it was because I think at one point he shared his location with me. Why, I don't know. But it did say Dublin, and it was Santa Rita jail. That's where it was, I guess, when I looked at the thing. But I also wasn't really looking. It just said Dublin. It didn't say the jail, I guess. I don't know. It was something weird. But yeah, so I'm just like, okay, you know what? I'm going to just tell him, you know, I got somebody staying here. So he could stay here for a couple days, but then he has to go. So I called him back. I was like, all right, I'll pick you up. You can stay for a couple days, but I have company coming in a few days, so you're going to have to leave. And he's like, okay, that's fine. He was like, a couple days, you know, that's cool with me. And I was like, where you need me to pick you up from? Dublin? And he was like, no. It was like a weird pause. He's like, no, Oakland. I was like, okay. So I hung up. I was like, send me your location. So he sent me his location. So I went to go pick him up. Now, mind you, I just wanted to know what happened. I wanted to know what happened because there was some crazy charges. Why are you free? Like, you know, and at one point I did ask about bail. I had asked my dad because I don't want to call him a career criminal on the internet, but he got a record himself. And my brother now, he's a career criminal. So I'm like, he probably familiar with, so I'm just asking, just doing my research, but he thinking that I love this boy and all this. And I'm just like, yeah, you about to be blocked, brother. Connect me to this man one more time. I'm just doing my investigation. I feel like I got somebody on the inside. So that's why I'm asking you. But then eventually he turned out to be useless. So I hung up. Don't you bail that man out? I wish I would. I wouldn't bail. I don't do bail. That's not a thing. So yeah, you know, I work too hard for my money to be sent to the penitentiary. I already get it from the taxes. So yeah, that's basically how we got to the point. So I was like, okay, I'll come pick you up. So I got in my car and I headed his way. Okay, so I go to pick him up, and after he sent the location, so I go to pick him up. He in like some weird bar. Bars is something that he loved to be in. So he had this bar, and he hopped in the car in his little jailhouse shoes, and I hit him with the free man. You a free man now. And he was just like, how did you know? And I was just like, it's public record. Like, it's not hard to look it up. We just needed your name and your date of birth. And I was like, and we knew when your birthday was because you told us. So he was just like, oh. And I was like, well, what happened? Like, I'm curious. And he was just like, oh, I got into it with my girlfriend. I said, you got a girlfriend? He was like, yeah, we've been dating for like a year. And I was just like, oh, okay, interesting. So he was like, so again, little trigger warning. If you have things when it comes to DV, you may not want to continue to watch. But basically, he was saying that he found out she was cheating on him. So he was so upset. They arguing. While they was arguing, he was like, let me see your phone. He was like, she willingly gave him his phone or her phone. So as he looking through the phone, he minded his business, like looking for more stuff, I guess. I guess she got upset, and he said she grabbed I don't know which can't be said on here. Grabbed something that was pointy and decided to come at him. So he fighting her off, and then he said he pushed her and like basically got it out of her hand. And once he pushed her, she hit her head and her nose started bleeding. So he said because her nose started bleeding, he wanted to make sure that she was okay. So he ended up getting an Uber and taking her to the hospital. They live near two hospitals. It's like downtown Oakland. It's not, hospitals ain't far. So he was able to take her to the hospital. When he got to the hospital, he forgot that he took what she had in her hand away from her and put it in his pocket. So he said he put it in his pocket. He went through the metal detector at the hospital, and they found it. And they basically was like, with that and the fact that her nose was bleeding, she holding her head, they ended up calling the police. The police showed up, and they ended up taking him to jail because they had to take somebody or whatever. But he was like, he didn't bail out, that they dropped the charges. And I was just like, oh, okay, interesting. So I'm like, whatever, people get into it. I don't know what people got going on. It's kind of hard in those situations to kind of really navigate what's going on. Especially, I didn't even know the girl existed. So I'm just like, okay. So that's interesting because remember how I told you, remember how I said I would drop him off, and he would always go through the garage. There was one time he went through the garage and there was this big old security guard there, and this girl, she looked like a white girl. So I was just like, okay, I'm thinking that's the neighbor, because he said he had this neighbor that lived across from him that would give him food and would always give him stuff when he was on his way to work, and he would kick it with her. And I'm just like, oh, okay. So that's basically something that occurred, but that neighbor ended up moving out. But that must have been the girlfriend. So at that point, I'm starting to connect it up. Like, oh, that must have been the girlfriend. And I was like, why you can't go back to your place? He was like, I think she took me off my lease. How could she take me off my lease? I said, well, how did she get on your lease? Well, he was like, I should have never added her to my lease. I should have never added her to my lease. And I'm just like, okay. He was like, but how could she remove me from my lease? I said, I don't know. I said, I'm assuming maybe because of the situation, she had a protective order of some sort, so she was able to remove you without a problem. I really don't know how that works, but I'm assuming that's all I can go off of what the information provided. And he was like, yeah, and I got fired. And he was like, he received an email from the temp agency saying that he was fired. And I said, why was he fired? He said, because they said it was unprofessional for him to ask his supervisor to bail him out. I said, what? He was like, yeah. So basically what happened was he called Scott when he was first in jail, and he kicked it with multiple people at work. It was Scott, the girl, and a supervisor that worked there. And I think the supervisor was like a floater. Like, he wasn't at that particular location, but he would float. So he basically called Scott, and Scott was like, do you see your charges? Like, why are you calling me? Basically, he said, good luck, buddy, and hung up on him, which I thought was kind of funny, but hung up on him. And then I guess he called Scott back and was able to get the supervisor's number. I'll give the supervisor a name. I'll call it. So we got Scott already. I'm going to call the supervisor Ben. I'm just call him Ben. That ain't his name. Scott ain't Scott's name. You know what I'm saying? None of these people name. So Trey ended up calling Scott and got the supervisor's number. So he called Ben and was like, hey, can you bail me out? Can you do me a favor? Like, can you just, do me this solid and bail me out? So I'm like, why would you do that? Like, your coworkers are not your friends. And he was just like, yeah, I just had to get bailed out. So I guess Ben ended up going to his boss, and his boss said, cut him loose. So they cut him loose, and he was fired. So now he jobless and sound like homeless. So I shouldn't have let his black behind come here. But I was like, okay, whatever. You could stay here for a couple days. So he get here, and he started doing all this weird stuff. I don't know him like that, but I'm just like, you can't be that. I just gave him too much grace, in the sense of, I was like, well, you can't be crazy because you got hired at the job. They do background checks. And I'm like, okay, well, maybe this was a misunderstanding, because those were some pretty serious charges and they just dropped them. So I'm like, okay, maybe it wasn't as deep as it was. Sometimes when people get arrested, they throw a lot of charges at you and they just try and see what can stick. And then even when it comes to interactions with partners, when it comes to arguments or putting hands on each other, things are just like strange. So I'm just like, I was giving him the benefit of the doubt. So I'm just like, whatever. So he got here and he just started doing all his little weird stuff. Is my life over? I'm like, well, no, I mean, you free. You said they dropped the charges, right? So this is your second chance at life. Like, get it together. Well, you think they'll hire me back at the job? No. I said, I could temperature check for you. Yeah. You want to go? I said temperature check. I ain't asking nothing. I'm just trying to, fill it out, do a little gossip and see what they say. Which is what I'm thinking. But I think he thinking I'm in there like, hire Trey back. Like I'm gonna hold up a picking sign or something. I do not care. So yeah, that's basically what was happening. And then I had told him, cause like I told you, I had a man on the inside kind of. So when I had asked my dad, about the bail, he was like, oh, he in Santa Rita, he'd be all right. He'd be all right. They don't do all that, He was like, they just, try and punk you for the phone, or like simple stuff like that. Like it ain't that bad compared to other jails right now, basically. Because Santa Rita had a reputation. But he was like, it's not as bad right now, basically. And I was just like, okay. I mean, he the one in there that got to handle that. So, but my mom was like, he too skinny to be in there. So I had said that to him. I was like, my mom said you was too skinny to be in there. And I said, my dad just was like, they'd be the type to punk you over the phone. He's like, man. So he was saying that when he was in there, some guy did basically try while he was on the phone, he talking, and I guess somebody tried to come over there and fight him. He was like, the guy tried to punk him on the phone, was like, oh yeah, I heard you was from so and so, I don't like people down there, so we gonna have to handle this. He was like, so we can either head to the showers, or he said something else, and I got lost in the showers. So I said, what? Why y'all heading to the showers? You know what I'm saying? Jail got a reputation. So I'm like, what y'all heading to the showers for? And I really want to know. But he was just like, to fight. He was like, because there's no cameras. And I was like, oh, okay. You might want to lead with that when you tell this story to somebody. Lead with that. He wanted to fight in the showers with clothes on. You know what I'm saying? Lead with that. Because you lost me in showers. So he was like, I guess he went in there, he fought dude, and he was like, he didn't really lose. He wouldn't say that he won either. Like, there was times where he got the better of him and the other dude had the better of him. Like, you know, so I'm just like, okay. A lot of jail talk that I really don't care about. So that was something. So then I had told my cousin that he was staying here. So my cousin is so funny. We terrible because we over here singing Akon. We fighting for our life not to be singing Locked Up. So I told her he was here. I told her, like, you know what happened? Like, he got into it with his girlfriend. He was released. So, you know, I don't think nothing really crazy happened as they dropped the charges. So I just gave her, you know, update. He'd just be here for a couple of days as he can't go back to his place. So she was like, okay, like, we on the same page. I have other family members who were staying here, but she was just more frequent in the area that I was in, as well as my other cousins. So I told them. So, because although we all live in the same house, it's like separate living spaces. So I'm just like informing them. And yeah, that's basically what happened from that night. So he's like, did I ruin my life? Why did I put her on my lease? Why would she do this to me? Da, 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 da. I'm like, one thing about it, I didn't know the girl existed. But after we found out the girl existed, he would not stop talking about her. He didn't speak about her for 7-8 months, or maybe more like 6-7 months. And then all of a sudden, he just wouldn't stop talking about her. So this was the beginning of just irritation. So like I said, he was here and we were at the house. So I was just like, the next day, I do like to go to shopping centers. So I did take him to Walnut Creek because I think he only been in like Oakland area in San Francisco. So I'm like, I don't know how far he's been out. So I was just like, oh, we could go to Walnut Creek. They got some shopping over there. So we could go and get some stuff. Like, do you have funds? And I'm not asking so that I can buy it for him, but I'm just saying, if it was even necessary for him to come, because he didn't have his stuff. Apparently, Ben, the one he has to bail him out of jail, had gathered his belongings from the ex-girlfriend. So I'm going to call the ex-girlfriend Jessica. That's not her name, but I'm just going to call her Jessica. So he gathered the items from her, and he was like, oh yeah, I have to get my stuff from him. Like, is it okay if I let him bring it here? And I'm just like, well, what stuff? Because you said you had a whole apartment that she kicked you out of. Like, are we talking furniture? Like, what you talking about? And he was like, nah, it's just a couple bags. I'm like, okay, whatever. But he was trying to figure out like how to do that. So I'm just like, in the meantime, I guess he was like, he'll buy something. So he ended up coming with us. I had to go to my eye doctor. So he ended up getting some food next to my eye doctor. And that was fine. He got it. It was like some crunchy chicken or something like that. And then we went to Walnut Creek so he could buy some items. So one of the first things he bought was sandals, slides, because he was in the jailhouse slides and he didn't want to wear those and he didn't want people thinking he was a prisoner and whatever. I'm like, okay. But while we there, we shopping, we minding our business. Me and my cousin, we going in and out of stores. He's sitting outside with my mom and just like venting. So he talking about this girl. He would not stop talking about Jessica, like just saying her name all the time. So freaking annoying. So he's talking to my mom. I'm in Victoria's Secret. I'm out of my business. I'm shopping. I got some coupons. And me and my cousin, we just looking for different things. And she trying on stuff because she'll go out shopping, but she don't really buy stuff for herself. So this was like one of the times where she actually like bought something. So she's like taking her time. So as I'm there, I'm like going in and out. Because she's taking a little minute to buy something. And I come out, he's talking to my mom about Jessica, and he was just talking about some of the things that occurred with them when they were intimate. I'm not going to share that portion of it at this point, but he was just like sharing like some things. I'll share like one or two things, but and he was talking about that. He was like, yeah, how could you do this to me? Like, you know, I don't want to get too intimate or to give too much information. Like, this is TMI, but you know, I was told like my stuff is curved, and I'm just like, yeah, it's time for me to go. So I ended up going back in the store when it came to that portion because I don't want to hear that. And then when I came back out again, then he was talking about like his time in jail, and he was talking about how he was in like the maximum security like jumpsuit, like I don't know what to call it, but there was different color jumpsuits, and he was in one where it was like you got more serious charges basically. And he was a bunk mate with somebody who caught an M. And me, I am very much not educated on all this. Like I know some people who got some charges, some priors, some currents, and some futures, but I don't know everything about the jail system. So he was just saying like, yeah, the guy said he caught an M, and I'm like, what is it? What's an M? $1 million? He was like, he got an M. Or starts with an M, end with an R. So I was just like, oh. And he was like, yeah, I was uncomfortable. Like, I didn't want to be in there with him. Like, I'm over here. Like, I'm tweaking out. Like, yeah, we know. So that's basically what he was saying. And he's trying to explain to my mom. My mom dying laughing. One thing he could do is tell a story. So she out there laughing. They kikiing or whatever. But he's still in his little depressive state. So he did end up buying something from the Macy's, which was the slides, and then we went to Zara eventually, and he bought like a couple outfits. Like he was buying outfits, and we just like, okay. And then we ended up going to the outlets, and he ended up getting like a hat. Now, mind you, this is when Ben met us. He met us at the outlets. So it's the San Francisco Premium Outlets, but it's actually in Livermore. And Livermore is not in San Francisco. It's actually a ways away from San Francisco. And this man lived in San Francisco. So he drove all the way from San Francisco to give that boy his stuff. Like, quick, fast, and in a hurry. Like, he didn't want it. And I probably should have noted that, but I was just like, maybe he just don't want, everybody not cool with jailbirds. I'm not either, but they don't bother me in the same way. I just know people who've been in the system, basically. So he dropped them bags off. Didn't even make eye contact with us. You would think that we at that point, we all still worked at the same place. So he dropped off the bags, and we just like, okay, it was like a suitcase and a bag or a duffel bag or something like that. So I'm just like, okay, that's not a whole bunch of stuff. That's not a big deal. So he's like, I'm about to go into a different part, but basically we took him back to the house, and we at the house. He was like, do you want me to like leave this here? I was like, no, you don't have to leave it in the living room. You can bring it into the bedroom that you're in. So he did. And then he started falling into this little depressive state. Now, in the beginning, I still wasn't talking to him like that. Like, I'm just trying to do you a solid for a couple days, whatever. So we sitting in the living room. When I say we, it's me, my cousin, and Trey. We sitting in the living room, and I think at this point we offered to do like a movie night. So he was like, yeah, I'll watch a movie with you guys. So me and my cousin, because we was going to watch, it was either Castle in the Sky or Spirited Away. I think we attempted to watch both at some point of him being here. So we was watching it. He was like, do you think we could pause it for a second? And I'm just like, okay. So then he goes into this rant about Jessica. Like, oh my goodness, I just don't understand how she do this to me. I'm like, okay. Like, we said our 2 cents, and then we played it again. And when I say he was a broken record, he would repeat the same thing over and over and over again. So annoying. So this is just kind of like his early stage of being at this house. So he did that, and then we were also talking, I think before we even started the movie, we was just talking in the living room, and my cousin, he was showing my cousin his Instagram and his music, and he was like, this is where he starts to just lie about weird stuff. So he's like, yeah, a really popular song or whatever. And she was like, oh, like, let me see. So she looking at it, and she was like, oh, you paid for this? He's like, no, I didn't. She was like, yes, you did. It say boost again. Like, she was like, I know about this. Like, you paid for this. He's like, oh, I mean, well, so he did pay for his stuff to be promoted. I'm pretty sure a lot of his followers were paid for as well. I don't believe that they were genuine followers. So it was very interesting. Like, mind you, that's not something I care about. That's not something she cared about. So I don't know why he lied to us about it. There was another thing that he lied about. I guess he stumped into his shoes, and it made the back like stick together. And she had asked him if it was like a shoe brand, like a luxury shoe brand. He was like, yeah, it is. But then when the shoe got stuck, he asked for our help to fix it. So as he asked for our help to fix it, I went to help him, and we noticed it was Steve Madden. So it wasn't the shoe that he said, but it was kind of like a imitation of it, like a bootleg version of it. And she was like, why would you lie? Like, you said it was this and it's not. And he was like, I mean, I was just saying. So he lied about the shoe brand. He lied about him being as popular as he was on Instagram. And this is just things that he was lying about. So we was just like, okay, whatever. We took a grain of salt. But then we was like watching a movie or whatever, and that's when he kept stopping. And I was like, yeah, watching movies with him is not going to be a thing. So that was one thing that he did. But he wouldn't stop talking about this girl. Like, how could she take me off my lease? I just don't understand. Like, and he just kept bringing up the same things. Now, mind you, at one point when he was out with us, he said that she told his car. Oh my goodness, she told my car. Why would she tell my car? The car that we never saw, but he said that his neighbor sent a video of his car being towed. And we just like, okay. So that was just some of the things that happened in the couple of days that he was here. So after this, my cousin and my mom like, oh, where's he gonna go? Like, what is he gonna do? I'm like, I don't know. Like, I never asked him. But at that point, the way that they was asking, I felt like they was low key like guilt tripping me, like, oh, maybe you should let him stay longer. Because the whole point of my friend saying my friend was coming, she was coming, but she was coming like weeks later. I had just told him that so he wouldn't feel comfortable and understand like this is a short term thing. You need to go. So at that point, they kind of like guilt tripped me. So I was like, I mean, I guess he could stay longer. So far, he hasn't been a problem. And I guess he really doesn't have anywhere else to go. So I'm just like, I'm being nice. So I'm like, okay, you can stay a little bit longer. So I told him after like day 2, like, okay, you can stay a little bit longer. My friend, she pushed her date back. She's not going to come until this date. So that's what I told him. So he's like, oh, thank you. Like, he seemed appreciative of it. So he ended up staying longer. Now, mind you, while he was here, he was out of my way. He wasn't bothering me or anything like that. Like, he stayed in the room. He typically would be out all night and then just be in the room all day. And he also kind of kept my cousin occupied. Not like she's a child or anything, but I feel like sometimes when I come home, it's like I don't have energy to like speak or do certain things. So they would kind of tire each other out. It's kind of how I viewed it. And so they would just engage, like, and I didn't have any issue. And like some of their encounters was funny. Like that's when he actually became funny to me, not him per se, but like her reaction to him was just funny. Like their encounters and like the stories she would tell me about like what they would discuss and stuff was funny to me. So he was cool in the beginning in the sense of he didn't bother me because he was out of my way. Okay, so part 11, I'm going to try and talk a little bit faster as I realize some of the previous videos seemed a little long-winded. I'm mentioning, everything that I'm mentioning is important. Like, it's important to the story, which is why I'm mentioning it, because I touch back on it and it's giving me like aha moments later on in the story. So I'm saying it for a reason. I'm not just trying to just give a whole bunch of unnecessary information. Everything it comes back. It comes back around. So that is why I'm mentioning it. So part 11, I'm at the part where he basically came to the house and we caught him on like random lies. Like he's just telling us stuff just to tell us stuff. Why? I don't know. But yeah, so we just caught him in like random lies. Now, in the early stages, me and my cousin, we are like doers. So we try to get things done for like ourselves or just different things. Like we'll take care of business when it comes to handling things. So we trying to guide him low key through what he got going on. So my biggest thing was, you need to get your ID taken care of. You need to get your car out of the tow company. And then what are you going to do when it comes to your belongings at the apartment? So first I'm like, the ID. You need an ID because he kept applying for jobs, but he didn't have any identification. And I'm like, part of it is you have to tell them that you're like authorized to work. You have to provide the proper documentation and whatnot. You can't do that if you don't have it. Not only that, it takes time for that to come. And one thing you don't have here is time. Like you don't have a lot of time. So you might as well, you know, handle things while you have somewhat of a roof over your head for the next week. But he was kind of like dragging his feet. And then also the apartment, I had asked about the apartment. Now, one thing about the apartment that I didn't mention, my coworker had asked him like what his rent was. And he was like $2,900 or $3,900 or something like that. And we both looked like, that's how much you're paying. I'm like, you could find something a lot cheaper. Not a lot cheaper because it is the Bay Area, but you could definitely find something cheaper because the position that he did at the job, they don't make that much money. So I'm just like, there's no way that you can afford that. And if you can, you're using all of your money basically each month to pay for that. And you say you got a car note, like it just wasn't adding up. And my coworker was like, yeah, you definitely need to get a different place. And I had mentioned this place again one time because I was curious if his apartment was a 1-bedroom or a 2-bedroom. And this is when he was still kind of low key trying me. But I was asking because my cousin, I was like, is your apartment a 1-bedroom or a 2-bedroom? And he was like, why are you trying to move in? I said, no. I said, my little cousin is trying to move apartments and you're kind of like local in the area. So I'm just curious as to like what kind of apartments your building offers. He was like, oh yeah, it's a 1-bedroom or something like that. Yeah, it was 1 bedroom. So I was just like, okay, that was like the weird thing about the apartment. So when we was asking like, are you going to get your stuff? Like what's going to happen? He was like, oh yeah, her mom is going to bring me my stuff, the rest of my stuff. And I'm like, the rest of your stuff? Like, what do you mean? Because you said you had a fully like furnished apartment. So when the mom came, she brought him a box with like a journal in it and a box of open grits. I said, okay. And he was like, yeah, she must really still care about me because for her to get all these belongings, she really had to like look for it and get it from me. I'm like, yeah, I don't think so. And then the tow truck. So, I mean, the tow truck, the car. So when he was here, my cousin was like, oh, like, is you going to get your car? Like we both was asking about it. And at one point when he was here, he got on the phone and called the tow truck company. Important. He got on the phone, had a conversation with the tow truck people, and whatnot. And she overheard him talking to them on the phone when he was talking to the tow truck company. So then eventually, like when I asked again, he was like, "Oh, I'm just gonna let my parents deal with that. They pay the car note anyway, so I'm not gonna deal with that. I'm gonna just leave it to them. Like it's gonna be their problem." I was just like, "Well, that's inconsiderate." But speaking of parents, he needed his birth certificate in order to get him an ID. I don't know why I'm stuttering like that. In order to get his ID. So he was like bugging his mom to send it and was being kind of like real irritating about it. Like at one point his birthday came and she sent him an edibles arrangement, and he was like, well, she should just send me like my birth certificate. Like I don't understand why she didn't send this. And my cousin was like, you need to be grateful. Like you're so inconsiderate and ungrateful. And then I was just like, well, this didn't come from Louisiana. Like she ordered it and they probably sent it from a place nearby. Like this didn't come from there. It's a different process. So she didn't send this from the house. Like I don't understand why you're so upset, but okay. Because she sent him like some balloons and the fruit or whatever. But then it took her a minute to send a birth certificate. And even I was like, oh, you could just get it offline. So I'm asking for his information. I'm putting it in. When it came time to pay, he was like, oh, well, I'm going to just try my mom one more time. I'm going to try my mom one more time. He like expected her to just stop her life and just, hop into gear to give him his stuff. And I'm like, she a grown woman. You grown too. You put yourself in this position. She don't have to stop her life to help you get yours back on track. That's my mindset. Whatever. I feel like, don't nobody owe you nothing. Not even your mama, but whatever. So that's one thing that I was saying. Now I was like, well, why don't you get your passport? So I'm like, and getting a passport, you can get it like quickly. Like my cousin, she got robbed when she was out here. They just went into her car while she was at the gas station and took her passport. So I knew how to kind of get like a passport with a quick turnaround time because they got it like 2 days before she was supposed to go back to London. So I was trying to like put him on game with that, and he was just like not hearing it. So he was so unserious when it came to all of this. But when I mentioned the passport, he said he already had a passport and his dad had it. But his dad is a hoarder. He's a narcissist. He wasn't going to give him his passport. Like this is the things that he's saying. He also mentioned that his dad had brain cancer at one point, and then he didn't have it. And then he also mentioned that his dad liked to put hands on his mother. So that was something that he remembered, and he would never do that. He would never be like that. Like he just act like he didn't like his dad. And I'm just like, okay, I don't know what the story is, but I ain't here to tell you your trauma ain't your trauma. But also he mentioned another thing about his mother was that at one point she did try to take her life, and he walked in on that, and I guess he was the one who found her. So that's another thing that was a part of his trauma that he mentioned. Now I don't know what's true, what's not true at this point, but this is stuff that was mentioned. So I'm like, okay, whatever. But we was just basically trying to help him get everything together. Now, when it came to him being here, anytime anything went wrong, he was just drinking. Like he would drink almost every night. He would go to bars every night. And me personally, I didn't care, because that ain't got nothing to do with me. In a sense of like, I wouldn't see him drunk, but I would see like him constantly ordering bottles. I would see him drunk, but when he got drunk, to me it was annoying. He turned like goofy. Like he didn't get like completely wasted in front of me per se for sometimes, but he would drink a lot and get really drunk. And it was just like always when things wasn't going his way. Even when things was going his way, he would still drink, but I felt like it got worse when like things wasn't going his way. He would just take it overboard. So that's something that I noticed. Now, when things would go wrong, initially early on, like my cousin, she'd be like, oh, text him, tell him come back. Like, tell him don't be out all night. And me personally, I wasn't doing it. I don't care. Like, you can stay out all night if you want to. Like, you don't have to be here. But she would do that a lot. And I think initially from my point of view, she's like afraid of a lot of things. I swear she feel like everybody outside bite, like it's zombies walking around. So she was like, he shouldn't be out there at this time of night, like downtown Oakland, like that's bad. So I think it's coming from a caring place. Like she didn't care about him enough because she didn't know him like that. But I think when she would say that, it wasn't because she was like into him or anything like that. But it was just like, outside is scary. Like, why is he outside at this time of night, especially in that state of mind? Is more so where I feel like those comments came from. But I wouldn't ask him anything. Like, anytime I did mention it, was because she was like, you should tell him to come back. So I did. But eventually they exchanged numbers, so I didn't have to say nothing. But during the time he was here, Jessica did file for a restraining order. And she also called his mom. So he said she called his mom and said that he put his hands on her. A little demean warning. He put his hands on her. She broke her arm and all these different things. She had bruises. He did all these different things. And his mom called and was very disappointed and was having a discussion with him. He was like, Mom, I would never do that. You know me. I would never do that. You know me. And he even said that sometimes to me, like, I don't know you, brother. But he was saying that to her. And, I think he was like, because of what she's been through, she know I would never do nothing like that. And so that was like what he was saying. And he was depressed and went out drinking again. And I'm just like, that ain't got nothing to do with me. So his stay extended a little bit more because my friend canceled, and he wasn't a huge bother. He still kind of kept himself, because I work during the week. I don't engage with him like that. The most I would engage is probably on the weekend, and it was like group settings. So it'd be him and my cousin arguing, and I thought it was kind of funny whenever they bicker back and forth, because they had like a different kind of relationship. I don't even want to say relationship, because I know she don't want to be associated with that man like that. But their encounters was a little bit different, because I believe how he viewed us was very different. Like when it came to how we would speak to him, she was bad cop, I was good cop. Good cop, bad cop, because she was not filtered and I was more passive with the way that I would handle things, and she was very blunt and in your face. Like she called him a wino, a crackhead, like she called him everything but a child of God. And he would come back for more. Like I think he loved it. I think he loved her energy when she would do those things. But I'm going to get more into their interactions in a minute because it is relevant. Okay, so my cousin and his relationship, I say relationship loosely because I know she doesn't want to be associated with him, and they weren't like in a relationship, but they interacted with each other more than I did with him. I think in her head she thought we were like friends, but I kept trying to explain to her I carpooled with him, and I assisted him one time when he was locked out of his house. I'm like, other than that, I'm like, he a little young-minded, he a little immature, but I was like, I mean, for the most part, I don't think he's too crazy. He was able to work at the job. I'm sure they did a background check. Like, these are things that I'm giving the same. That's literally how I was thinking. I know some people may find that hard to believe, but that's just literally what it was for me. I felt bad for him, so I'm helping him out. I don't really like him like that, but I don't dislike anybody at the time enough to just like be so cold and so mean. So I was decent, and because he also knew my mom, like she'd be like, oh, it's okay, like she'll say stuff like that, but she didn't know he's crazy either. And so they interacted a little bit more. They would watch movies together. One of their movies that they would watch a lot was Norbit, and they would like quote it a lot. And he was Norbit, and he would sometimes call her Rasputia. She don't look like Rasputia or anything like that. It was just the way that they would just talk about the movie. Food. He would ask her to make him food a lot, and in the beginning, I think she would like, okay, like I'll try. I think she felt sorry for him too about his situation. He's kicked out of his apartment, just got out of jail, lost his job, like car gone. Like I think it was just more of a pity party. So she would do it, but she don't even cook for herself like that. So it was like simple stuff. But she would just like do it every now and then. It wasn't all the time. But I think he was like expecting like every morning he wanted her to cook something, and she would go back and forth like, I am not your girl. Like I'm not doing that. Like, so she would basically cuss him out. Washing his clothes. He would ask her to help him wash his clothes. And basically she was low-key doing it, but I feel like he always acted like he didn't know how to do any of these things. He would like pretend like he didn't know how to do any of these things. But it was kind of like, when I say that, he one time came and knocked on my door and was like, hey, what you doing? And I'm like, why? And he was like, can you come here for a second? And then he was like, can you like, so he has some spaghetti noodles and some some marinara sauce, like sitting on this counter talking about, can you, I said, absolutely not. I said, if you would like for me to like walk you through it, I could tell you. I mean, I'm like, everybody makes spaghetti different. I'm not a chef, but I can walk you through, some of the basics if you like. So he was like, yeah. So my cousin in there, she kind of like hear me talk to him. I was like, yeah, you go ahead and get you a pot. You put some water up in there. You go ahead and start boiling them noodles. And he was like, I was like, you could break them if you want to. Some people do, some people don't. It's up to you. And then I was like, with the meat, like he didn't have no meat, but I think it was like some hot dogs or something there. I was like, yeah, you can go ahead, cut that up. You're going to get your chopping board. And she's like, yeah, you're going to learn today. And I said, go ahead. And she was like, yeah, go get you a knife. She was like, we know you familiar. So we're laughing. It's dark humor because he said the girl came at him with one. So we like laughing. He laughing too. We had some dark humor going on. So I walked him through it because I was like, I'm not making you no food, brother. Whenever I cooked in the house, it was like for my family. So if he wanted some of it, he could have some of it, but I wasn't cooking for him specifically. And my mom even made a comment like, oh yeah, she cooked you some food? No, I cooked some food and he could have some of it, but it was not for him specifically. I don't even know what he likes or anything like that. But when he said that, when I was helping him with the food, I'm like, are you pretending like you don't know how to cook? Because he mentioned that his ex-girlfriend was vegan, and that one time he was cooking him some food and it was some meat. It was like some steak, and she was scrubbing the hell out of the pan because she didn't like that he used it. And I was just like, so do you not know? I was like, how do you know how to cook steak, but you can't cook anything else? Like, are you pretending? And he was just like, no, I know how to make some stuff here and there. But like the stuff he named, I'm like, I feel like you kind of have to be a bit of a cook to know how to do that. So I'm like, I feel like you're pretending. But that was some of the stuff. Now, she would do stuff for him, like not consistently, but every now and then, because early on she got over it. And she would make him do stuff like, oh, can you take the trash out? Can you grab this? Can you do that? Like, she would make him get up and do some stuff that, you know, other people probably, like my other cousin, he wouldn't do it. So that was something that was interesting. And then with them, they went to certain things. So like they went to the zoo, they went to a comedy club, they went to like, I think there was an Alameda at one point. They were going to go to a concert. So like they had more activities like one-on-one. I didn't have any activities with him one-on-one. Whenever I did anything with him, it was the three of us, or the three of us and my mom. So it wasn't just one-on-one. So in my head, I think that he felt like they had a closer relationship because he would tell her things that he wouldn't tell me. And I feel like his views on us was different. I feel like he saw her more as an equal. And then he saw me as somebody like an authority figure. So I think that's why we engaged differently. Like there was things he wouldn't tell me, but she would tell me, and he would sometimes be upset if he caught wind of something that she told me. So I think that just kind of helps me when it comes to like the way that they would talk to each other. When he was applying for jobs, she was helping him with something, and like she grabbed his computer a certain way. He's like, don't grab my computer like that. I don't even grab my computer like that. Nobody does. And she's like, I don't know who the you think you talking to. He's like, but I ain't your mom and I ain't Jessica. Like, don't talk to me like that. She's like, I ain't got to help you. So she going in on him, and he just kind of like laughed it off. But she was like, don't talk to me like that. But overall, I just feel like he felt more comfortable. One of the things that he mentioned or she noticed around him, and like he would confide in her, was his Netflix. So they were going to go watch a movie. Like I said, they'd be watching movies, and they was going to watch a movie, and he was like logging into his Netflix, or he was logged into the Netflix or something like that. I think he still had Jessica's password, or it was hooked to his computer or something like that. And when she saw it, she caught a glimpse and saw that his name for his like icon, like his profile, was I'm so sorry, Jessica, I love you. Or like, sorry, Jessica, I love you. It was something like along the lines of that. I know it's only so many characters, but he put that there, and she was just like, that's a little weird. And at one point she was like, you should just log out of that. He was like, no, I can't do that. He's so dramatic. But that was like one thing that he was like kind of confiding in her about, or like things that he noticed. Like he felt more comfortable with her knowing things than he did with me knowing things. So there was things that I didn't know that she knew until after the fact. But that was just kind of like how their day-to-day relationship went. So I'm trying to figure out, is there anything else that I need to mention? Oh yeah, she did send like text messages, and they were funny. Like there was one where eventually she got tired of him asking for food. Like I have a video where she came in the house, and he was like, oh, what you got? I'm hungry. She said, you need to get your own food. And she was like, EBT, you qualify, you need to apply. And he was just like, no, but I want some of your food. And one thing about her, I don't want to call her stingy, but she is very much Mr. Krabs. Like she's not spending money on different things. Like she is not about to buy him nothing or anything like that. When he was interviewing for his jobs, he didn't have any toothpaste. I buy in bulk, so I had toothpaste, but I didn't know that he needed it. But when I leave, like doors are locked. Like I lock my door and different things like that. So she was talking through like, oh yeah, you need to brush your teeth. Okay, yeah. So what you should do is just like when you go to your interview place, just get there early, go get you some toothpaste, and then brush your teeth in the bathroom. And he was like, I had a follow-up question. She's like, yeah. He was like, how do you brush your teeth? And she was like, with toothpaste. She was like, yeah, but my toothpaste is in like a little container that I be using. Like she just went into this whole rampage in the sense of, you're not using my toothpaste. So he also had this not this dynamic, but she wouldn't give like up a lot of stuff. Like every now and then she would buy him something, but she would bill him like, oh, well, you need a case of water? Okay, I'm gonna bill you. But he always would say he got money. So in the beginning, he was offering to buy me some stuff, I guess, because he was like thankful for it. And that's when he had bought her some DoorDash. She was like, oh, do you guys want anything? Like, I can buy it for you. And I was just like, no, I'm cool. She was like, I'll take some. So she ordered from a sushi place called Kansai out here. And it's important. There's a reason why I'm mentioning it. And I didn't order anything. But then after that, like, he always would be like, oh, yeah, because I got money. When my grandma died, she left me a lot of money. She left me like $15,000. And I'm like, I'm not saying $15,000 is not a lot of money, but depending on what money you've had access to or how you view money, that's not really a lot of money, especially not in the Bay Area. Like, that can go quick. So he would say stuff like that. So he was always like bragging like he had it. So like my cousin would be like, oh, well, why don't you go ahead and give me some food or something? And then eventually he was like, you always asking for food. It's like, well, you was always bragging about your money and made it seem like it was nothing. So you can't really blame her. He never bought anything beyond that con side. And I think he only bought it initially because I was sitting there and he was trying to kind of like make a good impression, I guess. So yeah, that's just kind of like how their dynamic was. I'm not going to do any further video about their dynamic. And then I'm going to do a video about like our interactions while he was here. Because it's painting a picture. It's to paint a picture. Okay, so when it comes to my relationship with him while he was here, we didn't have a relationship. We didn't interact much. When we did interact, it was usually like in a group setting. It was never like one-on-one. When I say group, it was like me, him, and my cousin, or me, him, my cousin, and my mom. So he would ask me to watch movies with him or with them, and I would say no. After our experience with Spirited Away, I was not interested. We did watch Castle in the Sky like next, but that was me and my cousin. He eventually just came in there and sat and still tried to do the same thing. When he asked me to cook that spaghetti, I was like, no, brother. I walked him through it, like, you know, and I was like, I'm not eating it. So you tell me if it's good. You know what your taste buds like. So if you don't like it, you blame yourself. Tried to help him get his birth certificate. And I was online trying to find it. He was like, oh, I'll just wait for my mom to send it to me. So he was weird, but he did try to use my address. He asked me, he was like, oh, can I use your address? I never said yes, that he could use my address. I basically was just telling him like things that you need to do in order to get it. Like you need to update, you need to have a California address. You don't have your ID, I was trying to see if he needed a birth certificate. Like I called and whatnot. And he was like, yeah, he needs these documents. I was like, okay. So I told him the things that he needed. As for, you had to provide mail to show where you live, like something with the address on it. But he never received any mail here. I never gave him a piece of mail. Like I was in control of the mailbox. The mailbox was locked and I never gave him a piece of mail. And the reason why I'm in control of it or why I have a lock on it is because there are other people who try and use the address. And I didn't want them to have access to it. It's just an open mailbox. So when I receive mail for people who do not live at the house, I would send it back to the post office. But he never received anything. So that was something that's interesting. And then he did end up getting the license, but he showed me a copy of it, like, oh, got my license, because he's so happy. And he showed me a copy of it, and it had like to mail, like to send it there. It didn't say like residential, and it was the address to the house, but I didn't realize like that's what he was putting on the ID. Also, he went to the library to print stuff, but I thought it was the documents that you needed to sign for DMV. So that's just a learning lesson. There was a night when I was sleeping that he jiggled my doorknob. Now my door's always locked. I keep my doors locked. That's just the thing. I lock almost every door. And he jiggled the doorknob, and I was just like, why did he do that? Now, mind you, the rooms are right next to each other, and maybe he'd be drunk or something, but I don't understand where that was going. So I just chucked it up to, oh, maybe he drunk. It was dark. Maybe he didn't turn on the hallway light, so he thought this door was that door. I really don't see how that could happen, as the door is way closer to the door than my door, but whatever. So that is something that he did. And then something else that he did that I think was like specific to me was he tried to tell me stories to change my perspective on our coworkers. Well, it wasn't his coworker anymore, but at the time I was still working there. So he was trying to tell me stories to change my perspective on them. So he told me how he lost his phone in his wallet was because he was out and about with the two coworkers, Scott and Ben, and Scott started talking to these dudes on the street, and then the dudes was like, oh, like he was like, come on, like let's keep going. And then he said he noticed the dudes was following them, so he tried to like not check the dudes, but be like, oh, like y'all good, like y'all need anything? And they was like, yeah, we gonna need that, like basically give me what you got. And he was like, oh, you not gonna get what I got. So then he said that they jumped him and that Scott and Ben ran off. I'm gonna spoil it right now. Later found out that was not true, but he said that so I could like change my perspective on them. Also, he said he broke and like lost his phone. But at this point, one of my coworkers told me that he said he got a new phone because he was kicked off the dating apps. And I was like, how could you be kicked off all the dating apps? Like, I'm confused. He was kicked off the dating apps and he got the phone so he could have a new phone number to create a new profile with a different name. Interesting. So he told me that. And then also, I think he did that specifically about Scott and Ben because he was jealous of Scott. When he was at work, he would be so jealous about how he thought everybody else perceived him as like the good one and didn't want perceived Scott as a good one and didn't want Trey to be like around basically. So he would try and change my perspective. He also showed me a video of someone, I won't say who it is or what the relation is, but we both knew this person, and it was of them doing that booger sugar. And I'm like, he was like, when he first showed it to me, he was just like, look at this, like, this is crazy. Like, how did he, this is just crazy. This is what they be doing. And my mom was like, oh, is that something that you do? And he was like, no, like, I would never do that. Like, I was just there. I said, so you were just there watching them do that? He was like, yeah. So, interesting. And then when he was here, because he was doing job hunting, and he wasn't so successful in it. So like I said, he needed his ID. So he applied for a job, and he was trying to do tech, and the people gave it to him. Like he said, he impressed the interviewers. And I was like, oh, does he need his ID? Because his ID was supposed to be coming in the mail. And she was like, no, he said he don't need it. My cousin, she was updating me basically. She's like, oh, no, he don't need it. But he got the job and he just has to do like something. And then later on, it came out that the job found out that he had DUIs. And they wanted him to explain the DUI. So he needed to give a reasonable explanation of that because they did a background check. And they pulled the fact that he had DUIs and they did not want to hire him with the DUI. So he needed to give an explanation. He couldn't give an explanation. And basically, he didn't end up getting that job. But I was like, how do you get the job before you get the IDs? Stupid. So that was something that occurred. He also, like, when he was here, he didn't hug me. He didn't do any of those things. I only say that because I think he felt comfortable enough to, like, put his arm around my cousin and, like, be playful in that way. He did not try me in that way. So that was not something that occurred. But also, I want to mention, he was not involved with either of us romantically. We're both older than him, and we both looked at him like, ew, you're a child. But he mentioned to my cousin, he's like, yeah, this is the first time that I lived in a house with women that I didn't do anything sexually with. Like, he said some comment like that, and she was just like, okay. And to be honest, me and her, we're both prudes. Like, I'm a bit of a prude. She's a bit of a prude in our own way. So this is the wrong house to think that you're going to have that kind of energy. Like, we just don't move that way. And I know some people may think it's impossible, but that's my truth. I don't know what to tell nobody. Okay, so like I was saying, I just put like another note here. I said, from our interactions, I came to the conclusion that he kind of looked at me as like an authority figure and kind of like respected me in a sense and didn't look at her like that. He looked at her as more of like an equal because of the things that he would mention. Like he would mention her like, oh, do you think they'll let me stay here? If I like pay them money? Like he would always ask her for like advice, but he wouldn't come to me with that. I mean, if he did, he would be like in a different tone. So that was something that he would do. And I said it was like a good cop, bad cop thing because she was very blunt and I was a little passive in the sense of I was trying to filter and not be so blunt because, if somebody going through a hard time, I don't want to kick them while they down, whether I'm a fan or not. I'm just not malicious in that way. So that was kind of my mindset. But I will say while he was here, I was always giving him updates. So I was like, my friend, she's coming this time. Okay, well, she canceled. And she did cancel. She got a kid. She got a life. Like, she can't just, she things go on. And that's okay. That doesn't bother me if people cancel. But she did. And unfortunately, it messed with me a little bit in this way. So I would always give him an update like, okay. And eventually I did give him a move out day. I was like, yeah, you're going to have to be gone by this day. You have to be gone by this day. And, I let him know. I sent him text messages. I gave him updates. I was telling him like, sending him like, this is a cool place. That's a cool place. And he agreed, like he understood that he must go and that this was not a place to stay. Like this is not a room to move into. It was just more so for a temporary thing. For a temporary thing, that's one thing, but it's not a permanent solution. So you have to find something else. He understood, we agreed, and that's how we move forward. So that was just my interactions with them. The next thing I'm gonna talk about is just some of the ways or some of the places that we went with him as a group, because I feel like those group encounters were important, especially one in particular. It was very important. And then I'll go into what he said about his ex while he was here, just the things that he said. And then I'll go into how ish got real when everything hit the fan. I'm going to go into that. So it's about 2 more videos before I get into that. But everything that I'm saying is relevant. There's a reason for me saying it. Okay, so I'm going to try and stay on task. I have on shorts, so I know I look like I ain't got nothing on, but I got on shorts. But basically, we tried to take him to certain places to get his mood up, because he would bring down a mood. He was just always in his funk, and it was like, okay, I know you're here for a short time, but you get on our nerves. So we took him to the park. It's like this park with a trail, and we took him there to like clear his mind, because she was like, he walked to the liquor store to clear his mind. He crazy. So I'm like, go get in touch with nature, fresh air. You do a little trail, see some beautiful sights, and he brought down the mood when we was there, so that was annoying. Then we was going to the gym. My cousin and I was going to the gym. I have an Equinox membership, so I had invited her to go take a class with me, and she was like, oh, you should invite him, see if he want to go. And I was just like, okay. I invited him. When I invited him, we was like, work it out, get exercise. It's supposed to help relieve stress and stuff. And he was there just down in the dumps. He did try to like help us with machines, or help me with machines, because I didn't really know how to do any of the machines. And I'm like, y'all, I'm weak. So he helped us with like 2 machines, and then he went to go be depressed somewhere in the corner. And mind you, he was funky. He didn't shower. Like his whole time being here. Water probably hit him like 2 times. He wasn't here for super long, but 2 times is not enough interaction with water. So that's basically what he did. Was here. So after that, I was like, I want to go get some oysters, because I was really craving some oysters. So I'm looking at places, and there was a place in San Francisco at the Ferry Building. So that's where we went. I ended up parking. I don't know where I parked now that I think about it. Oh, I think I parked closer. I don't know where I parked. But we ended up going to the pier. And we was at the Ferry Building, basically. And we got some oysters, and we ate, and then we ended up leaving. And then the next day I was like, let's go to Santa Cruz. Like, I want to go to Santa Cruz. And then she was like, yeah, like my cousin was like, I ain't been in so long. So we went, and like, I think she went and got like some bathing suits and just like little pieces or whatever. So we did that, and then we went home. So I was like, okay, well, we gonna wake up at this time to go to Santa Cruz. I want to get there early. So I'm saying this, and he was like, yeah, okay, he want to go, she want to go. So then the next morning comes around. He stayed out all night. He came back in at like 6:30, and I just happened to look at the cameras, because nobody was really responding to me when I woke up to like, y'all ready to go? My cousin, she did, but she was like, I don't think I'm gonna make it. My body's sore, because she went to the gym. She was like, my body's sore. I don't think I'm gonna make it. And then like later on, she called. She's like, I think I could go. So when first she was like, yeah, y'all could just go without me. I was like, I don't think I'm going with him nowhere by myself. So she ended up being like, okay, I'll go. Like, I think I'm feeling better after I moved around a little bit. I'm cool. So she got up to get ready, and I'm texting like, you going with us? So she was asking when she gave me like, is he going? I said, I don't know. He ain't responded. Mind you, the rooms is right next to each other. But I didn't go over there or go in or knock or anything like that. I don't know if he's sleeping nude or I ain't got time to be seeing none of that. I really don't want to see none of that. So she ended up like going in. He was clothed. I think he was under the covers, and she was just like, you going with us? And then he was like, yeah, I'm gonna go. So he ended up getting up and going. We drive up there. The drive was peaceful because he was asleep. We was playing music and whatnot, and we just chill. It was a chill little drive up there. We was late. It was a lot of traffic. And it was hard to find a park. We ended up finding a park in like this like parking lot kind of to the side. Is the all day $5 parking, if you're familiar. So we found that one, and it was cool. We went to the boardwalk. We having a cool time, but he's going in and out of like this depressing state. Like he's cool 1 minute, next minute he not. And then she like complained about that. Like, you bring it down the mood. Like, this is a beautiful place. This is a nice place to be, and you over here soaking and all up in your feelings. Like, this is just so annoying. She was like, you do this everywhere you go. And he kept bringing up Jessica. She was like, you stay bringing up her name. You keep bringing up her name. She's like, every time you mention her name, you're gonna have to give us $1, because I'm tired of it. We're tired of hearing her name. Like, this is basically what she's saying. And we'd be like, yeah, like, and one of my conversations with him during that time, I was like, yeah, I don't get why you are so stuck on her. Like, you said she did you so bad. Like, if somebody did you that bad, you should be able to move on. Just move on. Like, I really don't understand. And he was like, yeah, I know, I'm trying to get better. And as I'm having this conversation with him in the line, because I would be blunt at times, but I wasn't as blunt as my cousin. So as I'm in the line, so he's like, oh, like, what's your relationship? I guess because I was talking to him like a little boy, she thought that was like my brother. And I was like, no, we're ex-coworkers. I didn't even say friends. We're not friends. So that's basically what was going on. And he was doing that all day. Now, he told her during this time, like, oh, his friend is in a psych ward and he just reached out to him and he ain't talked to him in years and he don't know why he reached out to him. He's like really messed up and he trying to get his life together, but his life is all over the place and, you know, he feels bad for him, but he just doesn't understand why he reached out to him. So now he back to being depressed. Like, it was just an emotional roller coaster. And my cousin, she was right for the way that she felt, because it was annoying. We spent $80 on the wristbands and here you is moaning and groaning about what's going on. About everything. Like, enjoy the time that's here. You got all day, any other day, to sit there and complain. So that's what was going on with that. So at one point we was done with everything basically, and he started drinking. Oh my God, he started drinking. So he started drinking. I think we had walked to the car to change into our swimsuits. So he had already had like a drink or two, and he was buying one when we was walking back. Like I said, he was buying one when we was walking back from the liquor store. And then we went to the beach to like sit down, but it was cold at that point. So I had bought a blanket and a sweater and we sitting there and he's still talking about this girl. And I'm just like, okay, yeah, this is too much. And my cousin was like, you have main character syndrome. You think everything is about you. She was like, you don't ask nobody else about their day, what they going through. You think everything is about you. And he was just like, okay, you're right. So he asked me like 1 or 2 questions about my life. And then he went on back to his life and just talking about how it was so bad. And he was talking about like his parents and stuff. And one of the things I said, I was like, you talking about parents. I'm like, nobody's perfect. I'm not trying to excuse your parents or invalidate your feelings, but I feel like at the end of the day, parents are human. People try to hold them to such a high standard. Parents are human and they're able to make mistakes as well. And not only that, there's not a pamphlet for like how you should and shouldn't do things. Every child is different. Every situation is different. So I'm like, at this point, you're grown. You're in control of your own life. Yes, those things happen to you, but now at this point, it's up to you to turn that around. Like, I don't understand like what you're talking about. Then he mentioned my dad, like my dad said something to him. My dad don't talk to him. My dad walked into the business that we work at and had engaged with him because he needed some help with something. And while he was standing there, I think he said something like, oh yeah, we be acting bougie, but we used to live in the hood and all of this. And I'm just like, okay, that ain't nothing. When he said it at first, I was like, what my dad tell you? He didn't say nothing to that boy. He felt like it was something, but that was nothing. He just talking. My dad just talking. So yeah, so he was saying that, and then after that, we was just like, okay, we so sick of hearing this girl name. So he was like, you know what? I'm just gonna sit here for a minute. I'm just gonna leave everything at the beach. I'm just gonna leave her here. I'm just gonna leave Jessica. I called her Jessica. I'm just gonna leave Jessica here. And then I'm never gonna speak about her again. He's like, you're right. And so he went and was sitting there drinking his liquor, looking out into the ocean, watching the waves, and like just trying to have a moment. I'm like, he's like, just give me 10 minutes. So he's sitting there, it's starting to get cold. The wind blowing, and we like, yeah, the sun gone, it's cold. You need to wrap this up. So he was like, 5 more minutes. He's like, oh no. He playing like music off his phone. I said, yeah, it's time to go. So eventually we get up, we leave, and we just get like our last little bit of food, go into the bathroom and whatnot before we leave. So we got our food, we ate our food. Before we left, it was like some fried zucchini and just like different stuff like that. It's just like carnival fair food. So as we're doing that, we ended up walking, and he was like, had his arm around my cousin, was like, yeah, you know, I really do appreciate the things that you guys do for me. Like, you know, I'm sorry. Like, I know it could be a lot, but, you know, I'm going through a lot with my heartbreak or whatever. He's like, but I really do appreciate the things that you do. And then as he's walking, he has his arm around her, but he notices some girls like looking at him. I guess they thought he was cute or something. So he noticed and he peeped. And as he's doing that, he was just like, yeah, she not my girlfriend, like loud in her ear. So she realized he talking to somebody. She turned around and was like, he's homeless. And then he just was like, why would you say that? He was like, I am. He was like, but why would you say that? So mind you, I'm walking ahead. I didn't hear none of this. I didn't see none of this. So as we kept walking, I walked into the bathroom and he walked in behind her like, why would you say that? Just so loud. And he's laughing, but it's like a goofy, drunk, annoying laugh. And he was just like shouting that. And then she was like, I'm sorry. I said I was sorry. So then she walked into the bathroom and basically met with me and told me what happened. So yeah, he was like, why would you say that? So she was like, I'm sorry. She's like, I was just saying anything. Like I would have said that about anybody. She's like, I just happened to realize after the fact that it was true. She didn't look at him as homeless, but when he was like, yeah, I am. She's like, oh, I guess the shoe kind of fit. So she's like, I'm sorry. And he kept bringing it up. I said, look, she said she was sorry. Okay. And she rarely do that. She said she was sorry. So let it go. But as we're like walking back, he's still like fixated on, like, he would go in and out just on that one point. And I was like, okay, he kind of obsesses over things. And I said that to him when we was sitting there. I was like, you seem obsessed, like, about the girl. He was like, well, yeah, I kind of am. And she did tell me, like, I had issues with, like, smothering, and I was like smothering her. So after I had said that on the beach, and then he was obsessing over what my cousin had said, I'm like, this is too much. This is way too much. And then we're walking back, and he's still drinking. He bought another drink. Like it was his last one or whatever. And we're walking back to the car. As we're walking back to the car, he just decides that he wants to stop and pee in the middle of nowhere. I said, oh no, like, you are out and about. Like, you need to at least tuck into a damn bush. And he was just like, oh yeah, my dad wouldn't let me do that either when I was younger. Sounds like a reasonable man. Now, I don't know if I understand everything that you just said about him, because that's reasonable. You know, it sounds about right. It sounds like he's the one who tried to keep you in check, and you didn't like that. So he was like, yeah, so he ended up like tucking in and going to the bathroom, and I'm just like, yeah, you need some hand sanitizer and all that. Like, you touching your stuff, you think you about to get up in this car touching up on everything. So we gave him some hand sanitizer, and then we made it to the car, and then he had to throw away that liquor. You ain't get in the car with an open container. You need to do what you need to do, finish it. So then we driving back to the house, and as we driving back to the house, we in a car, we jamming, we listening to Joe, we listening to some Maxwell, like, we cool, we on our grown woman stuff, we minding our business, because there's a significant age difference. I'm 5 years older than him, and I think she's like 6-7 years older than him. So we jamming, we cruising or whatever, and then he's like, can you play Ayo by Chris Brown? And we was like, no. And then he asked again. I was like, okay, whatever. We played it. We played one. And he's like, can you play that again? Absolutely not. What happened to your headphones? Put them back on. Why are we not doing this? So then he ended up putting on his headphones, and we continued to cruise to the house. We make it to the house, and he sleep, knocked out in the back. It's giving drunk sleep, okay? So I tried to wake him up, like, hey, get up, Trey, we here, wake up. He didn't wake up. Then my cousin said, Trey, wake up. Like, he didn't wake up. But my guy cousin, who also lived in the same household, he was like, he shook him like, and then he popped up like, what's going on? So we laughed, and I was like, oh, I guess to take a man touch, because it didn't work with me and my cousin. And then he was just like, oh, what happened? I said nothing. He just shook you. We couldn't wake you up. So we still giggling, because we making little jokes back and forth amongst each other, but he just all bug-eyed and weird. So then I get in the house, and I'm minding my business. I went to take me a shower. We was sitting on that beach. Like, one thing about me coming back from Santa Cruz, a shower has to be had, even if I be tired, because I came back, 2 days ago from it? No, yesterday. And I was so tired, I had to take a shower. But yeah, so I'm in the shower, I'm minding my business, and everyday shower is every day I take like an everything shower. Like, I just be doing 3 much in the shower, and I enjoy it. That's my peace. That's the one place I could be alone and mind my business without nobody bothering me. So I'm in there, and then my cousin, she calls me, and she was like, yeah, I think you might want to check on him. Like, he's having a hard time. I don't know if he called her or what, but she was like, yeah, I guess he felt some type of way about our cousin, like, shaking him. And she was like, yeah, the comment you made, like, oh, it takes a man's touch. I guess he had something happened to him as a child, so he just felt like he did something to him, like, inappropriate. And I'm just like, oh, I don't have time for this. I'm not equipped for this. Like, I am not, oh wait, I don't want to make it, I got shorts on, but yeah, I'm just like, I'm not equipped for this. Like, this is too much. Like, I just can't do it. Like, I don't understand. He's too damn needy for me. Like, and I get that's a serious topic, but at the end of the day, I'm not equipped or skilled in that department, and I can't facilitate those kind of conversations, especially with somebody who I really don't have much like compassion or like empathy for. Like, I pity him to an extent, but it's like, I don't believe that's a conversation that should be had with me, period. I'm not gonna make fun of you. I'm not gonna say, oh, that something happened or something didn't happen. That's not for me to say, but I do not have the energy for this. So I was just like, oh my God. So then I hung up, and then I went to the room, and he in there in the dark. I knock on the door. I don't even think I put on clothes. I'm getting this out of the way. Open the door, brother. So he opened the door, and he was just like all depressed. He had the phone, and somebody talking. And I'm not even tripping off who talking. Somebody talking on the phone. I'm like, you good? And he was like, yeah, it's just, I got a lot going on. I was like, yeah, she mentioned there's something going on. You felt uncomfortable with what he did or what I said. And he was like, yeah. I was like, look, I just said it took a man's touch because you wasn't waking up when me and my other cousin was doing it, but you woke up when he did it. And then also I was like, and we laughed, but I told you what it was, but clearly you must didn't hear me. I said, but yeah, we are, all related. We ain't about to sit up there and watch him do nothing weird to you. Like, that's weird. One, we don't want to see that. But two, yeah, it just don't make sense. But I'm just like, and he was like, yeah, I'm good. I'm on the phone with Scott. And Scott was going a full blown prayer. Okay, it almost sounded like a sermon when I was listening to. I think he listening to a sermon or something. It's Scott on the phone praying for him. I'm like, okay, I don't know what kind of relationship y'all got going on, but whatever. Hope you good. Went on by my day, and at this point, you done ruined my little routine. I be lighting a little candle, shower be on, steam be on, be lotion and layering, and it's ruined. The whole ritual, routine, whatever, is ruined. But yeah, so that's what happened with that trip. Now, there was another instance where I had took him to go see not to go see, we went as a family. My family's very welcoming, so we went to my little cousin's birthday party. This was just not even a fraction of my family. Like, I have a lot of family, and this was just like a small little birthday party for my little cousin. We went, and he got into it with my friend, my cousin's friend's boyfriend. And I guess the boyfriend thought he was trying to make a pass at his girlfriend. He was like, she not even my type. Like, oh, boy was trying to fight him right then and there. And they was like, oh, everybody needs to calm down. But I guess he was fighting the case too. So I don't know. There was a lot going on in the household. But yeah, so he was like trying to come for him, basically trying to beat him up. And I was like, in my head, I was like, oh, that's not that deep. He was like, she not even my type. Like, I don't even go for girls who look like her. And he wasn't lying. And thank God he don't, because she's sweet as can be. And I think she's just one of the sweetest people. And even her boyfriend seemed like they probably wasn't equally matched when it comes to personalities, because she's very sweet and not short-tempered, like just a very bubbly personality. So for her to even experience that, I felt bad. And it was because I brought him. He didn't seem like he did anything wrong at that time or in that moment. I don't know if he did later on, but that was basically what occurred. So those was our interactions, trying to uplift him and make him feel better. And it clearly didn't work. And it just was weird interactions in general. But all that I said is relevant. It's important. Now, the next video I'm going to do is I'm just going to talk about like some of the things that he mentioned about Jessica while he was here. And these are things that are also important. So I know it's long-winded, but I have to say these things because if I just hop into it later on and try and come back to it, it's not gonna make as much sense. So that's basically what I'm doing. Next, I'm just gonna talk about the stuff that he did with Jessica, and then it gets real. So yeah. So our good friend Jessica, that's what I've named her. That is not her name. I really wouldn't give her name. But yeah, so basically for our good friend Jessica, we was sitting in the kitchen. I think this all happened kind of like around the same time. So we was sitting in the kitchen and no, I'm gonna take that back. While he was here, she was trying to get a restraining order on him. So she was saying that he was saying like, oh yeah, she tried to get a restraining order on me. I didn't even know. So he had to have his first like court appearance virtually. Because even though he was supposed to be there in person, he did it virtually. And I guess he asked for more time. So as he asked for more time, he said he got a lawyer. So when his second time came around, he went there and he was like, oh, she was so shocked. She's sitting there with her friends and her family. And she was shocked to see that I had a lawyer and that I had somebody there to defend me. Like, this is what he's saying. And she just looked shook because she didn't expect me to have that support, basically. And I was just like, oh, okay. So that was one thing that was happening. And then eventually she did get the restraining order granted, but I'm going to go back to that. So we was in the kitchen. We just having a conversation with him, a little powwow, because we would do that sometimes, just discuss stuff. Like he'll catch us in the kitchen. We all start talking. So we started to like, I'm like, and I called him a liar. He was like, yeah, I just hate liars. I was like, but you're a liar too. I'm like, you lie about a lot of unnecessary things. And he was like what? Like, what have I lied about? So mind you, at this point, I didn't know he lied about a whole bunch of stuff. I just knew he would lie about simple stuff, like the thing with his shoes or the thing about him on Instagram. But I was like, you lied and said that you didn't have a girlfriend. And he was like, oh, well, I mean, I was like, because my mom asked you. My mom asked you when we was asking about the butcher girl. You said you didn't have one, but you had her for like a year. And then I was just like, also, you put her on your lease? She was like, yeah. So he said that, well, I kind of lied about that too. So he told me that she had moved in because her lease was up. And that's why he added her. She was giving him pressure. He was like, but that wasn't really true. She was living with her mom. So, she was 30-something living with her mom. And, she pressured me. So I was like, yeah, you can move in. So that's how she got on the lease. Because they had been dating for so long. Basically, she pressured him to put him on the lease. So he said he offered up that he lied about something. I didn't even know that part was a lie. Mind you, we'll get there. So that was something that he said. He also said while he was here, when he was going through the whole thing with the restraining order, that he had wrote her a letter, like just pouring out his heart. So my cousin, she wants to see the letter. She couldn't see it. She couldn't find it. Like, he emailed it to her because, mind you, she has blocked him. She has a protective order against him. Like, she has no contact with him, but he had her email. So he emailed her the letter, or the love letter, whatever it was. So when we was having these conversations and the thing, in the kitchen, I told him, like I said, also when we was at the beach, I said, you're obsessed. Like, you obsess over her, and I really just don't understand what the obsession is. You said she's done you so dirty, but this is, you act like you just can't lose her. He's like, I love her. I was like, but you didn't really love her like that, because you stayed cheating on her. You stayed talking about all these different women that you had, and you never mentioned her, not once. So I'm like, I'm having a hard time believing that you loved her. He was like, yeah, but she cheated on me too, and it was just like get backs and stuff like that. This is what he's saying. So also he mentioned that she was vegan, and he was act like that was just the thing. She's vegan and she just didn't eat meat, and that was so weird. And we would go to all these vegan restaurants, and she would order all this food, and I was always spending money on her. And that was like a thing. Like, he spent all this money on her. It was another date. Oh, yeah, that he's always spending money on her. I didn't even think about this. So when we was in the car, this is how my mom asked him if he had a girlfriend. So he was talking about how he went on a date, and he was seeing someone, and she would order all this food and would expect him to pay for it, and she would order like everything off the menu, and would be upset if he would pay, if she felt like he always had to pay for it. And then it was like, for one of them, he did ask for her to send some money, and he was trying to ask for advice. And I'm like, okay, well, is this somebody that you're taking seriously? Like, is this somebody that you want to see? My mom was like, is this like your girlfriend? Is this going to be your girlfriend? He was like, no, it's just somebody that I'm seeing. But she would always order stuff, and it'd be like vegan food, because she don't eat meat. I'm like, vegan? And I'm just like, I mean, that's cool. I ain't against the vegan mentality, but I'm like, you're not vegan. So I'm just like, if that's not something that you want to eat or something, then you don't have to do that. But he was like, would it be wrong if I asked for the money back? Because I feel like every time we do stuff, she always wants me to pay. And I'm just like, well, you always say you got money. Like, if you don't want to pay, then don't pay. But if you're going to hold it over her head every time you pay, then you don't need to be paying. And he was like, no, I don't. And he was just like, I just feel like, she takes advantage, basically. So that was something that he said, and he was saying vegan. So he was talking about her when he was saying that. I didn't know that at the time, but he was talking about her. So he was in a relationship with her at the time that my mom had asked, but he didn't say anything. So that's a part of him lying. When it came to rent, he said that he paid the rent. She didn't pay no rent, basically. It was him paying the rent. And it was interesting because when he first said that he was paying rent, he had told my coworker. He offered up the information to me, my coworker, while he was sitting there. He walking around the office. Well, he's not supposed to be up there anyway. But he told us like he paid like $3,900 or $2,900 worth of rent. And my coworker, I don't know if I already said this, but my coworker was like, that's too high. You need to move. And that was something that he said. Now, he said also that he had gave her some money recently because she was depressed, and he wanted her to go out and buy some stuff to make herself feel better. He gave her like $1,000 for her to go buy stuff. And I'm like, I feel like she should give that money back. Like, this is just like the conversation that he had. And I'm like, okay, well, I don't know what to tell you. Stop giving people stuff if you're going to try and renege and take it back. But back to the restraining order. So around this time, I had told him, like, you have to go, like, my friend is coming. She's going to be here this day. I need enough time to basically clean the room. He was like, okay, cool. And I'm sending him stuff. Like, I'm sending him places because I know he's, like, unserious. Like, he's not going to look for stuff. And he not about to hit me with the last minute, oh, I can't do this or I can't do that. So I'm sending him stuff. And he's, like, liking him. And I'm just like, oh, okay. So I told my cousin, like, hey, I'm just sending him stuff. So just to let you know, if you don't want to talk to him, maybe avoid him because he's probably going to try and talk to you about it. And she was like, oh, that's so kind of you. But yeah, I'm done with him. So, you have such a good heart. I said, girl, that's not what this is. I'm just telling you to warn you. So if he wants to come and talk to you, you don't have to be bothered. And she's like, oh, okay. But yeah, she was like, so I told him, but I guess around the time that I told him, she must have spoke with him on the phone. And she was like, oh yeah, you should call him and check on him. I think he might do something to himself. He's near the lake. I feel really bad. I think he's really depressed. Mind you, I don't care. Not to be that person, but I do not care. I did not ask him. I did not call him, but that was something that she would do sometimes. Like, oh, he seems really depressed. I don't care. I have my own problems. I have my own things going on. I'm not here to baby and coddle this boy. I don't care. Stop telling me. So that was just something that she would do. But I never said, like, stop telling me. I'm just like, whatever. Like, I just ignored it. So around that time, I had told him, like, yeah, you got to go. So it's about time to wrap up. It's about time to wrap it up, to get it together, sending him things. And this is around the time that he also had, she had also successfully got the restraining order. So she was able to actually get the restraining order. She had a protective order, and then she went to court a couple times and got the restraining order. Now, when she got the restraining order, he was like, yeah, I just let her have it. I just let her have it because, you know, she's really emotional right now. She's just really in her head. So I'm just going to let her have it. And in a couple years, we could just touch base and, you know, figure everything out. But I just let her get it. And I was just like, interesting. But yeah, so he said that. So the night that she got the restraining order, this is also like a week after I told him he had to leave. And I was touching base with him, like sending him places to go to. And I had even asked him, like, if it's too much, let me know. He's like, no, I keep sending them. So after all of that, this is where things got real. This is the day that things got real. Actually, one more thing I'm gonna mention, he made a song about her and he played it for us. And he was like, yeah, it's not finished, but yeah, this is a song that I wrote about her. And me and my cousin just sitting there like, please turn this off. But he wrote it and it was just so weird. And I was like, oh, it's unfinished, right? Like he said he's still working on it. It was terrible. He should have never showed us. But back to the restraining order. The night that the restraining order was granted was probably like a week after I told him, like, you have to be out by this day. So this day that the restraining order was granted, I think was like the 28th. And he had to be out by the 1st. So things was just getting a little rocky for him. So that was when things took a turn. The night of the 28th is when things took a turn. Okay, so this is the part where shit get real. So basically, she got the restraining order, and that night he went out drinking. So I'm thinking he depressed, probably because he know he got to leave, and he still ain't got no job, and he didn't get his ID just yet. So he's depressed. He know he got to leave, and she got the restraining order. So he went out all night drinking. He do that all the time. I don't care. So I went to sleep. And as I'm sleeping, I hear this big old thud. Like it sounded like something big fell in the room. And the room that I was in and the room that he was in shared a wall. So when that happened, my heart dropped because I didn't mention this, but at one point he went to Juneteenth with my mom in the city, and it was like in Fillmore. I think that's like where it was. And they had some little thing going on. So he went with my cousin and my mom. And when they was out there, he almost got into it with somebody because he let somebody that he seen from the job like cut, and they was standing in a long line. It was a whole thing. But when he was gone, I noticed my curtains had fell off the wall. Like the whole curtain. It's like it's a 2-panel curtain, but it had 3 because it's so long. The window is so long. It fell off. And the only way that I knew is because I'm walking in the hallway and I see light coming through the door, like a lot of light. I'm like, why is it so bright in there? But it's not bright in the other room. Open the door, curtains off the wall. So I was pissed. I had to hang those back up. So when I heard that noise, I'm thinking something else has broken in the room. Like I thought the TV fell off the damn wall. So I texted him. I was like, hey, did something fall in there? And he was like, oh, that was me. And I was just like, okay. But you know, when you're suddenly woken up out of your sleep, you don't just fall right back to sleep. So as I'm sitting there, I'm like, okay. I started to hear stuff. And I'm just like, he talking, but he talking to somebody. I heard 2 voices. I said, I know good and damn well he didn't bring nobody in this house. I know good and damn well he did not bring nobody in this house. This man is homeless. We have been so nice to him, so kind to him, tried to help him out. I know he didn't bring nobody in this house. So I'm pissed. So I'm texting my mom. I said, oh, I think he brought somebody in this house. He got to go. And I'm texting like the same thing to my cousin. So as I like call my mom right quick, because I'm low-key heated, but I'm still half asleep. So I called him like, yeah, I think he brought somebody in the house. I said, oh, yeah, this ain't going to work. I said, hold on, because I didn't even check the cameras yet, because I have cameras. So I hung up with him and I called my cousin. And I was like, oh, yeah, he got to go. He brought somebody in his house. And as I'm like talking to her, I peeped the cameras. I was like, oh, yeah, he brought somebody. He got to go. He got to go. And she was like, oh, he's like, oh, he got to get his shit. He got to go. Like, she was like, him and her. He was like, he got to get his shit. He need to pack his stuff. So I'm talking to her on the phone. And as I'm talking to her, I'm texting him. I said, hey, is somebody here? And he's like, no. And I said, I hear 2 voices. He was like, that's weird. I said, Trey, you know I have cameras, right? And I said, hold on, girl, she going off, basically. I said, hold on, girl, I gotta call you back. Mind you, I don't know why I'm calling, because I know why I'm calling. I'm in bed, I'm half asleep, and I'm in bed in my, like, pajamas. Like, I sleep how I sleep, comfortable. So I ain't walking out in front of him or anybody else like that. So I'm still trying to process it, too, because I'm still waking up. So, so I hung up with her. I was like, oh, you know I have cameras, right? And he was like, well, the thing you got to understand about it is, I said, oh no, like this ain't gonna work. And as I'm doing that, my cousin's like, turn on the side light. Because she has to come into the house. She's like, turn on the side light. Because he turned it off. They use the side door to get into the house. So I'm like, hold on, wait. Like, I'm on the phone with him now. So as I'm doing that, she come flying through that side door. And she go to the door and she start banging. She was like, Trey, open up the effing door. She like, open up the effing door. Get whoever you got up in there and get out. Y'all need to get y'all stuff and y'all need to go. Mind you, I'm on the phone with him still. And the girl was like, is that your girlfriend? He's like, no, that's not my girlfriend. So the phone hung up. And I called my mom and said, oh, it's about to go down. And then I hung up with her. And then my cousin, she banging on my door, yelling my name, telling me to come out. And I'm like, let me gather myself. Like, at this point, I got to get up. It is what it is. I was going to address it anyway, but I was like still processing. But at this point, it's in your face. So I get up, I put on my, make sure I have on appropriate clothing before I go to the door. And I open the door. She yelling at him. Like, she was like, you need to get your stuff. You need to go. And he was like, just calm down. Like saying her name. Calm down. And then I open the door. This man is butt naked with like a button up collared shirt around his waist. So he buttoned it up almost like he had it on. And he like pulled it down around his waist. He's wearing it like a skirt. And I'm just sitting there like processing. I was like, I know he didn't. And he all drugged up and eyes is going crazy. He was like, just calm down. He's like, I could tell her to leave. I could tell her to go. I don't even know her. I just met her. I could tell her to go. I'm like, what? You just met this person and you brought her in the house and you slept with her? We don't even move like that. And I'm like, what is going on? My cousin was like, either she gonna come out or we gonna drag her out. Like, you know, that's basically what she's saying. He was like, the beat could go. So then I'm like, I'm still processing. I'm trying to stay calm. So I'll go in there. The girl sitting on the edge of the bed wrapped up in a blanket. And she's like, I'm so sorry. I didn't know. He told me he lived alone. I said, well, baby, he lied to you. And she was like, I will go. Like, I don't mind leaving. She was like, I just need to find my stuff. Like, I need to find my phone. And he was like, he walking around. He's like, go. He's like, I don't even know why you got the towel on or why you got the blanket on. I seen everything you got. You might as well just leave. Forget your clothes. Just leave. And I said, hey, you need to shut up. You need to shut up because you right behind her. I don't know what you think this is. You right behind her. You going too. Like, stop talking to her. Since she was polite, I'm like, I ain't got no problem like being nice to her. They both disrespectful, but she ain't know she was disrespectful. He knew he was disrespectful. So I'm just like, okay, whatever. So I'm like, she was like, I need to find my phone. He was like, can you call my phone? He's like, just leave. Leave. I don't even know you. Leave. I was like, oh. I said, what's your number? So I dialed a number. I found the phone. The phone's behind the bed. I didn't want to touch nothing. In the room. As I walked in the room, I realized how disgusting the room was because I distanced myself. Like, I didn't stay in there. I feel like if somebody in there, I'm not going in there inspecting and looking through stuff. In any of my guests that I had, I wouldn't really consider him a guest. But yes, I'm like, oh, this is the problem. So I said, you need to leave. You need to leave. Let her get dressed. You need to stand out there. So he grabbed some jeans and some drawers, funky ass drawers, and went into the living room. So we stand in the living room. My cousin's still standing in the bathroom. So how the house is, there's the bathroom, there's a room. And if you walk just a little further down the hallway, that's the living room. And the front door is like right there. So we stand in the living room. And as we stand in the living room, he started doing weird stuff. Yeah, he was just like, how could she do this to me? I'm like, who? He like, how could she do this to me? Talk about Jessica. He was like, I didn't do anything to her. I said, I don't even believe that. I said, well, how you moving and what you did right here, I don't even believe that. I did nothing to her. You keep making these damn decisions. She's like, that shit, that dumbass shit. I didn't do shit to her. At this point, I don't know if I believe that. You just lied to me, straight to my. Okay, I'll lie to you. It's not like that. I didn't do shit to her. Okay. But even though you didn't, she still does not want it. I didn't do shit to her. I promise you. Okay, you didn't do anything to her. But at this point, that's irrelevant because the ending result is the same. She still wants nothing to do with you. So what? What the fuck did I do? You don't have to do anything. I'm like, okay, that's irrelevant. First of all, what you did here today is what's the problem. I was like, you make bad choices. You make so many bad decisions that put you in these stupid ass positions. I ain't trying to cuss as much, but I'm like, you make bad decisions. He was like, no, I don't. I make good decisions. I said, name one. He was like, I got my own place, got my own job, got my own car. And I said, and they're all gone. And he was like, don't say that. And I'm just like, they are. So I was like, you have a bad track record of just doing stupid stuff and it gets you in this position. I'm like, I don't know what made you think that this was okay. I said, it is beyond disrespectful. You put me and my family at risk, bringing in random strangers. We don't even do that. What makes you think you got a right to bring somebody in here and lay up with somebody up in this household? This is my grandmother's house. You are beyond disrespectful. So we like talking, and I'm basically going in on him. Eventually, my cousin does come into the living room, and she sit down. So as she's sitting down, the girl is about to leave. She about to walk out. But I was like, oh, is your ride here? She was like, no, they're not here yet. They're a couple minutes away. I said, you don't have to stand outside. Like, it's nighttime. It's like 3 a.m. So this happened at 3 a.m. Like I said, I don't know what it is about him at 3 a.m, but he always seemed to ruin my day at 3 a.m. So I was like, you can wait in there. He's like, yeah, B, you could go. He was like, you could leave. As she touching the doorknob, I said, shut up. So then she sat down for a minute. Then her Uber came, and she was headed for the door. And that's when he was like, yeah, B, you could leave. I was like, and you could go with her. I don't know what you think this is. So as she leaving, I was like, yeah, be safe, feel free to let me know if you made it home, because I had called her, so she had my number. I'm like, you ain't got to, but I think she was a victim of the circumstances, like, because she didn't know what position he was putting her in. So that was something, that I was saying. So he was like, as she was leaving, he was like, yeah, tell her to get a plan B. Tell her to get a plan B. I said, not my problem. Not my problem. That's something for you to figure out. So he runs to the door with his crackhead energy. He was like, yeah, you have to get a plan B. Yeah, you have to get a plan B. I can't have a kid. You got to get a plan B. And I'm just like, dude, you either going to let her leave or you going to pay for another Uber, because her Uber is here. He was like, no, I said, look, I got her number. I can give you her number and y'all can figure that out on another day. And she was like, look, I already have 2 kids. I don't want any more kids. She was like, trust me, dude, I don't want any more kids. He was like, yeah, you just really got to take a plan B. Yeah, I was like, let her leave. So then she leaves. She go get in her Uber. We continue our conversation.